Hey guys, welcome back to the IPSL. We're doing Group D before C today. Had a little bit of a switcheroo, so we've got Artosis's group to kick things off here on the weekend. Joining me in the casting booth, none other than Rice. How you doing today, buddy?
I am doing absolutely amazing. I've been excited to cast this particular group ever since they released the results of IPSL round of 24. So, I mean, I am a Terran player, and Artosis is the only Terran left in the entire round of 16. We have like
Right.
everyone else is either Protoss or Zerg. So he's the last Terran hope, and he's also my personal favorite because I am a Artosis viewer. I am a guy in the chat. Um,
Yeah.
so I just want to see him succeed, and I want to see him beat all those nasty Protoss players that continue to bully Terrans on the ladder. I want that revenge, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, he's had a lot of experience against Dragon play, against Protoss players on the ladder. A bit of Freudian slip there because he's up against Dragon right off the bat. And then we got Dexter versus Hawk. It's going to be a pretty good group, and it's not a bad group overall for Artosis. You know, he's a Void, Bonif, and Dual. And yeah, the Hawk is a macro-centric Zergs that kind of aligns to his play style. He usually suffers against like super cheesy Zergs, so that's good for him. Dexter and Dragon, both like low S rank ish Protoss players, so they won't be easy for him. He has had a fair bit of experience against Dragon, got a little bit tilted against him not too long ago. Maybe he can get revenge this time around.
Yeah, honestly, I think this might actually be the best case scenario for him in terms of players in his group. I know
Right.
he definitely would have struggled against the likes of like Bonith, DeWalt, G5, Crossy, Julian. I know he suffers a lot against Julian and Eon Zerg. But yeah, I think in this group, despite there being two Protosses, which he doesn't say it's his weakest matchup, but he does seem to struggle against sort of low S rank Protosses a fair bit. But despite that, I do think that Dragon, Dexter, and Hawk are sort of best cased opponents for him, right? Like as you mentioned before,
Mm,
Hawk is a macro Zerg. Tends to struggle against Zergs who play a little bit weird, a little bit off meta.
yeah.
Um, like a player like Julian, I feel like knowing their skill level, I would normally expect Artosis to win against him, but he really, really struggles against Julian's playstyle. Um,
Yeah, he does.
yeah.
But he has said on stream something to the effect of like when Julian smurfs against him, he can tell it's Julian by the end of the match, but usually it's too late and the shenanigans have already gotten the better of him. So maybe he feels deep down that if he knows he's playing against Julian, then he can take him out. I don't know if he actually feels that way, but I think he did say something to that effect. But yeah, this should be a pretty good group from him. Dragon, he's a pretty damn good player. Dexter as well is one of the better Protoss players that we've got still in the tournament. So it's definitely not going to be an easy group for RT, but I would say he's got a decent shot at getting out of this group today.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Dragon is sort of one of the best foreigner Protoss players out there. Currently, I don't see Artosis winning against Dragon personally. But I do feel like when Artosis plays well and he gets to play his like macro style without getting too tilted or too,
Mm,
without getting his plans to like messed with too much, his head sort of messed with.
yeah.
He can play like some really good games, and I do think Artosis at his best can beat Dragon.
No,
Um,
I agree with that. Yeah.
mhm,
So, and especially if the Protoss is playing a more standard mid range style where they're not being too greedy or too aggressive or cheesy, right? Like, I feel like, yeah, he definitely can get the better of that kind of style. He's also been doing a build that's kind of similar to Scan. So, I'm guessing that Scan taught him the build, or they've been talking about it a lot, where he basically goes three base, nine factory and just macros an insane amount of army to walk over the Protoss with. I'm
mhm.
curious if he'll do a similar style here today. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, as long as Dragon and Dexter don't get too cheesy or too greedy against him, I think he's got a fair shot.
Yeah, I think the 3 base 9 factory style is going to be exciting to watch. I know for a while Artosis has been trying to play the split map style as in TVP. which I think could be really strong, but the split map style is one of those play styles where you have to do everything correctly and not
Yeah,
make any mistakes. And
right.
that's a very difficult play style to play.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for most Terrans trying to execute. Even at the pro level, they will struggle to play that style. It's usually like a last resort way of going about the game. If your timing attacks are not working out and you've traded poorly or something, and you kind of have to try and split the map.
But I'm pretty excited to hear that he's been practicing a 9 factory style. I think the only thing that makes it more risky is if your opponent knows you're going to go for that play style and they practice specifically against that.
Mm.
It's a lot easier to counter than the other play style.
Yeah, yeah, and you can just get really greedy against that, or hyper aggressive and cheesy, and mess with the Terran. There's a
Hmm.
lot of options. Sylphid's an interesting map to kick things off with. Things like Two Factory are okay here, but that's not really in Artosis's wheelhouse. So I don't think he's going to get cheesy himself. I do imagine this is going to be an attempt at a macro game from him.
All right. Well, it seems like both players uh, are ready to go. We're just waiting on the confirmation from either of them. First game is, of course, going to be Artosis versus Dragon. The map is Neo Sylphid, and it is a pretty interesting map, especially like as a 3-player map. You're not
Mm.
going to be able to split it in half the same way you can for like a 4-player map. So I think that could prove to have a pretty interesting late game. But anyways, it looks like we are jumping straight into it. The first game of the IPSL round of 16 Group D. Let's get into it.
Spawning here in the 12 o'clock position on Terran, Artosis himself.
And spawning on the bottom left of Neo Sylphid, it is the Canadian Protoss. It is DragOn.
Let's see what these gamers have got in store for us. Not a bad map for TVP. I know some Terrans don't like it a lot, but statistically speaking, it ain't bad at all for Terran versus Protoss.
Yeah, I think the way the map is sort of laid out, you have the fake high ground that, like, so the fake high ground kind of lets you, kind of splits the map into different, I want to say tunnels, but that's like not the right word, maybe corridors? And I think
Or
that kind of
lanes,
thing
yeah.
makes Terran pushes very, very strong. If you can like secure like the choke points to and from those corridors, it makes Protoss, makes it very difficult for Protoss to attack it.
Yeah, it's a gas expansion, this natural third. Yes, it has low yield, so it mines out pretty quickly, but just having access to a fairly easy to secure third gas is very good for Terrans. And it's also kind of postured towards the middle of the map, so you can sometimes like fake take your third base, like you're getting set up to take it, but really you're doing like a 6-factory push behind it and kind of mind game the Protoss as well. Like there's definitely a lot of options available to Terrans on maps like Sylphid.
Yeah, despite the low yield of the third base, it's still more than enough to max out with, and that's ultimately what you're looking for as Terran if you're going for that 3-base style. So I think this could especially suit Artosis's playstyle if he's going for that 9-factory.
Yeah, well, he's gone for a 12 gas here, so trying to optimize for like a 229 factory. Let's see how good his mineral optimizations are going to be. There's a lot of potential to get good mining here at the 12 o'clock. Better for Zerg than it is for Terran, but he should still be able to curve out his build order nicely. Looking at DragOn, just a 1-gate core build, nothing too spicy from him, and hasn't started that 14 Zealot either.
So it looks like this is just very standard Dragoon play. That's kind of something that I think is going to work in Artosis's favor, especially for this group, because it does feel like both DragOn and Hawk are fairly standard macro players, and that is the type of playstyle Artosis excels in. Your standard macro game.
Pretty much, yeah. I imagine he's going to do everything in his power to stay on the rails and not let DragOn either get away with too much greed or put on enough pressure to throw him off what his actual game plan is going to be. Scouting in the incorrect direction currently. Ardy checking the bottom right. Not gonna
The
find Dragon
unluckiest
just
player
yet.
alive.
Yeah, it looks like Dragon's gonna scout the correct direction as well. But there's no Zealot on the way, so like these two Marines hanging out in the natural is totally fine. There's no issues here. He's not going to get punished in any way, shape, or form. Let's see how quick the Nexus is going to be. Probably around 21 supply-ish. He's going to throw that down, or maybe even at 20 if he cuts a probe.
Wow, that is a very, very fast Nexus. Dragon playing a little bit greedy, but knowing his opponent, it is actually pretty safe. Artosis is actually getting 4 Marines. So he's playing rather safe, and I would at this point I would give Dragon a little bit of an edge, sort of winning the mini game of build orders right now.
Maybe so, but Artie hasn't thrown on a bunker yet, so he is getting away with a little bit of greed by just throwing down this CC straight up. Knows that he's not at risk of like a Zealot and Goon combo coming in here and trying to put on some pressure early, and he's got the Marines and Vulture to hold the line now, running out with that Vulture to get some map vision later on with some mines, and could be hyper aggressive and try and poke in with this Vulture. It's usually not wise to get too aggressive with it. It's okay if you take a few shots from a Goon and then still get away, but laying down the mines is the most important thing.
Okay, he chooses not to go in with the Vulture. Smart choice. The gap between the main and the natural is enough to be blocked by one singular Dragoon. So he keeps the Vulture alive. I assume that mines are being researched, so he's going to use this Vulture to lay down mines at Protos's potential expansion points, just to take into account when he's taking bases.
Yeah, and everything looks super standard thus far from both players, and this does suit Artosis. Like he kind of wants to play this style of game, and Dragon is a good enough Protoss player where he doesn't need to get too spicy. So yeah, this is actually going to be a bit of breath of fresh air for Artosis, that he can kind of go about his order of business without too much disruption. It's going to be 2 gate. Go on.
Although as much as this is like good for Artosis, it's also good for Dragon, because like we can't forget that this is this style of game that Dragon also likes to play.
Sure.
So it as much as it plays into Artosis' strength, it also plays into Dragon.
Yeah, well, that's not wrong. Well, it's like it's gonna be 3 gate Observer here from Dragon, like the most cookie cutter way you can play Protoss versus Terran. It's super safe against everything, but it does delay your third base somewhat significantly. So yeah, I would say unless he can somehow put on pressure with those goons and like maybe snipe a couple of tanks from Artosis early game, I actually like this for Artosis.
It's a bit of a funny mind placement there. It doesn't want Protoss to be taking that base of all bases. That's one of those bases where you would never expect Protoss to take. So Protoss will always, so a sneaky Protoss will always just grab that one, and because it's uphill, it's like really hard to attack into once they grab it. So maybe Artosis is sort of playing for the safe against that kind of play style, which Protoss players are known to do.
Yeah, although this was like a hyper aggressive DT build or something, or DT drop rather, like maybe that would be somewhat effective against the build that Artie's going for here. His engineering bay is like slightly on the late side of things. Like it's possible there could have been a shuttle with a couple of DTs flying into his base just before those turrets were finishing up, but he's got the mines in front to avoid any major issues from getting crippled by having late turrets here. So he's going to get away with his build order optimizations. Observer checking things out. Looks like Artosis is actually going to build a Goliath rather than make excessive amounts of turrets.
And I think that is fairly smart from him. And Protoss is going to start taking his third. It is a little bit late. Normally as Protoss, you want to take your third base at 6:30. But Dragon is opting to take it more around 7 minutes. And also it's the Protoss third that doesn't have a gas. So it's a little bit of a... I think Protoss might be aiming for some kind of early game aggression, or he's just playing it like way safer than I would normally expect a Protoss to play.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too bad to be stuck on 2 gas for Protoss. Does mean you're probably going to be a little bit more Zealot heavy in the mid game, what have you. Let's see if he wants to springboard this into a fast 4th base or not. Could stay on 3 bases for a while, but he certainly won't be able to afford like carriers or very quick arbiters usually with this mineral only third base. So yeah, it looks like he is going to be playing a more mid-range gateway man style, and a lot of factories going to be plopped down now by Artosis, probably going up into 5. I don't think he's going to try and 6 fact, and it actually wouldn't be that strong against the 3-gate observer opening.
Yeah, the way DragOn is playing right now is is going to be very good against 6 fact, and I don't normally see Artosis play that style anyway. I expect this to be like 5 fact, fairly standard. Take your third base and max out on 3. Looks like DragOn has popped out a shuttle and reaver combo. We're going to see if he can get some damage done with that. Although Artosis already has turrets down and Goliaths. So I kind of don't expect a whole lot of stuff to get done from this.
Yeah,
and he even has mines.
Yeah, this is super safe from Artosis. I actually really like this a lot. Yeah, he's not messing around. He doesn't want to take any unnecessary damage from Reaver harassment. Maybe there's room to come in here to the natural and get a good Scarab shut off on the tanks, or the SCVs rather. But I don't know. This looks pretty safe. Like, I don't think there's too many holes of weakness here in the Terran setup, and he's curving out well. He's macroing nicely. He's actually pretty much even in supply with DragOn right now, which is definitely a good sign.
Yeah, for sure. And like, dude, Artosis is playing with so many helmets on. Like, I don't even think Bonnet could crack that base with a Reaver and Shuttle. But we're gonna try it anyway. I mean, if you have the Reaver and Shuttle combo out this early and you delayed your Nexus to get it out, you have to try something. You can't just like let the Terran get away with this.
Oh, okay, so kills the observer. SCV's moving over to the mineral only, so he wants to take
That's
very safe
base.
Yeah, it's a very safe back pocket expansion. I mean, you can still make a ton of vultures while going for a style like this, but Shuttle's coming in now. Turret not quite finished up. Might better get a bit of a delay on this expansion, but actually not able to for the time being. Just going to start trading off with some of these vultures, and Goliath's moving into position to shut down any continuation of harassment. So yeah, this is very peculiar from Artosis taking this base, but it actually will make it a lot harder for DragOn to attack into.
I think I'm sort of understanding the kind of strategy Artosis wants to go for in this game. I think he's going to fight for the bottom right and play this out split map style. And because this is a 3-player map, if he can either secure or even deny the third main, or sorry, that's not the third main, the other main base area from Protoss, like, he's just going to win economically in the long term.
Right. Well, if he takes like the third base as his fourth, sorry, the 3 o'clock base as his fourth, then he's kind of like attacking and defending simultaneously when DragOn tries to expand down into that bottom right quadrant. So yeah, I can kind of see the game plan there if that is what he's thinking. Shuttle's kind of sharking around. He's got 2 now, so might try and make a play. Diving into the main base of Artosis now. See how successful it's going to be. Some turrets here, some mines on the periphery. Won't be huge value these shuttles can manage to find, but let's see.
There are 2 layers of turrets here. There's no way this does a whole lot of damage. That actually dies before it pops out the second Reaver, but 1 Reaver is still enough to cause quite a bit of chaos. The SCVs have been pulled, and some of them are trying to attack the Reaver. 7 kills already on the Reaver. I think 5 of those were SCVs. This is actually doing quite a bit of damage here.
Yeah, and he didn't quite do enough damage with the SCVs for these 2 vultures to clean it up either. A little bit annoying for Artosis, and he is powering up an insane amount of factories. I think he's got 8 in total so far.
Hero SCV.
Yeah, luckily he does manage to kill that before losing too much, but that was reasonable damage for DragOn. Like, obviously not optimal, but definitely enough to be somewhat more comfortable as he transfers a bunch of probes to this 4th base now.
Yeah, I think DragOn is going to go for a speed shuttle style, which I think normally would be pretty good against any kind of push-based play that Terran opts for. But because it seems like Artosis is going to try to split map, I think this puts the strategic edge in Artosis's favor, which I like to see as my fellow Terran.
Well, he has got 3 machine shops and a ton of banked gas, so making 3 tanks at a time is pretty crazy, and it is actually that 9 factory style that we were anticipating right at the start. You don't necessarily need to take the expansion until he's close to maxed out and he wants to attack as well. So we can like simultaneously attack Dragon and maybe take the space at the 3 o'clock behind it as a bit of an insurance policy if he's not able to trade well enough. Let's see how well Dragon deals with this. He's got most of his forces positioned here on this eastern flank, but Artosis should theoretically be able to out macro him.
Yeah, Artosis really is powering up on these 3 bases. But I am concerned that if he does decide to go for that big attack, that he's going to run into a ton of speed shuttles, and Protoss might be able to sandwich it and collapse on this army from multiple angles. But it does seem like he is going to he's aiming to take a 4th. That could be a fake out, but I do feel like this is the correct decision as Terran.
I think he'll eventually take this base. He just might not plop it down right away. He's going to at least attack, and he was kind of waiting for like the 170 supply threshold before pulling the trigger on this next engagement coming up. That's a wise decision. You could theoretically attack with like 150-ish supply, but it's more common to wait for around 170, 180 before actually committing to an attack. Let's see how well set up Dragon's going to be. He's got a ton of speed, lots, loads of Dragoons. At the moment, the Vulture's rotating all the way around to the top left to pick up this cannon. Maybe pull the army of Dragon out of position, but needs to make sure he doesn't lose too many of these Vultures. Looks like he is going to escape with the majority of them and leave a small pack behind to keep harassing the probes. This would be a good time for Artosis to start gaining ground, throw down the 4th CC now. While the army of Dragon is now out of position, this is a great time to start pushing across the map a little bit with the tanks.
I really wonder what Artosis's plan is here. It looks like he's going to try to occupy the middle of the map. Sieging up at this position is pretty helpful for him. It sort of limits the ability for Protoss to move around. There's a lot of zealots here in the middle of the map, and I think a big engagement is coming soon. Already mines are getting exploded on, and these Vultures, okay, the Protoss army is getting chased back. We're gonna get a snipe on one of the High Templars here. This is a good catch. I think there's only one other High Templar with 1 storm. That's not nearly enough storm to be able to deal with this army.
Shuttle. Yeah, there could be some in a shuttle, don't forget. So yeah, might still have more storm available to him. Probably one of these shuttles filled up with Zealots, and the other one might have a Zealot or 2 and some High Templars. Something along those lines. Has got enough Goliaths to volley down the shuttles as they come in, but requires a lot of fast reactions and good target firing to pull that off. At the moment, Dragon kind of shuffling around to the north here, and Artosis, he's gaining a decent amount of ground, and he's got a lock on this false high ground, so it's going to force an engagement out of Dragon, and quite a clumped up engagement as well, which will help out Artosis. Massive line of tanks in the back. Shuttle goes down as well. Poor engagement from the Protoss is going to help out Artosis a lot in a big way as he starts to eclipse him in supply. Got the SCV train in transfer to the 4th base behind this. Artosis looking pretty fantastic in this game state.
Artosis is actually playing this so patiently and so well as well. Like targeting the shuttle before any of the units could come out. This first storm only going to storm 1 singular tank. The second storm also not hitting a whole lot of units. Artosis is really just like patiently capturing more and more land, just like leapfrogging the siege tanks forward, building turrets everywhere, laying mines all over his side of the map. Although Dragon does have 5-6 bases at this point, Artosis might slowly just crawl his way and cut off the bases from each other, which could prove to be the winning move.
Yeah, oh, he's going to catch the probe transfer of these Vultures. That's a massive pickup from Artosis. Going to start to lean on this expansion in the bottom right a little bit with a handful of units, but with all the gateways set up down here, Dragon should be able to keep this at bay. The real question is, can Artosis get all the way over to the main rally point of Dragon over here on the left-hand side of the map? He's being very tentative about how he's pushing right now. Oh, good snipes on some High Templars as well. A lot of things going right for Artosis, but he is stagnating slightly in the center of the board. Now Dragon gonna pull the trigger with 3 shuttles, trying to dive bomb onto some of these tanks and drag some mines, getting a couple of good connections, but not enough to overwhelm this position.
That was good. That was a good reaction from Artosis there. I think if DragOn actually did a bit more of a better job coordinating his forces, he had a real chance to catch the siege tanks while they were unsieged, but there was no supporting army to go along with that shuttle bomb. So unfortunately, DragOn just ended up losing a whole bunch of units that, well, I guess not for free because he dragged some of the mines, but it could have been a much bigger victory than this.
Right. Yeah, I love that he's got a load of mines on this right-hand side covering this flank, although maybe DragOn can still open up a lane of attack to this 3 o'clock base, while most of the attention and forces of Artosis are allocated over here to the left-hand side to try and start to contain the rally point and start to lean on that mineral-only expansion. This is pretty annoying, though, getting this base and forced to evacuate. Has got the false high ground as well, does Artosis, so he could just transfer his SCVs up there for the time being. Losing that CC would be a little bit painful. And he, like I said, he's not making huge progress on coming across the map. So now DragOn's maxed out on Artosis. It's about 160 supply. There's a lot of room for DragOn to come back in this game just because of how long it's taken Artosis to try and seize upon the opportunities that were presented to him. He's being much more patient rather than aggressive.
Yeah, I think that despite Artosis taking up so much of the middle of the map and sort of squeezing the Protoss to the peripheries, he hasn't actually done a whole lot of damage economically to the Protoss.
Right.
It's putting Protoss in a very uncomfortable position, but it's not putting it in a necessarily a bad position.
Yeah, and DragOn does seem to be like navigating it pretty well. He's picking off some isolated tanks and limiting the opportunities for Artosis to actually get a contain on that rally point. It looks like slowly but surely DragOn might lose that mineral-only expansion to the top left, but that's not the main point of contention right now. DragOn just cares about maintaining this other rally point in the bottom right while he trades as many tanks off the board as possible. And he's doing a very good job of that just because there's not enough supporting units for these tanks, and every time the vultures go to try and accomplish a goal, suddenly the tanks get pounced upon, and he's really kept the army supply pretty low because of that. But overall, it does seem like Artosis is still fighting strong in this game. He's got that false high ground to supplement losing that 3 o'clock base. He's now taking the top left pocket gas expansion as well. His upgrades will now be churning. He was fighting on 1-1 for a very long time. Eventually that 2-2 is going to kick in, and he's going to be trading better and better as the game progresses.
Yeah, this is a good little victory for Artosis on the left-hand side of the map, but I do want to point out that is probably the least important base that Protoss has. And now Protoss is going to try and collapse on this 11 o'clock base, I think,
sure.
from Terran here. And this is actually kind of a crucial base for Artosis. And a lot of these SCVs are getting stormed. These High Templar are getting quite a bit of value before morphing into an Archon. And Artosis might be getting into a bit of trouble here. This is sort of when the game is going to start to become quite difficult as a split map player.
Yeah, I mean, his overall macro is pretty good. He's just having a hard time actually leveraging any advantage that he manages to get. And now he's at a sticky situation where his main and natural are going to be mined out. And the false high ground is obviously not a base that lasts for too long either. He really needs to get that 3 o'clock back to mining and ideally start putting on pressure to either the main rally point of DragOn or these bases here in the bottom right. And it seems like he's not successful in doing either of those things for the time being. Yet again, the 3 o'clock getting shut down by DragOn, and Artosis forced to retreat in the center now as a lot of Protoss infantry start streaming across.
Oh my god, these vultures are sharking around trying to get snipes on these High Templar, but it's not going to be enough. This position collapses to the Protoss, and Protoss has pretty much completely regained control of the map and of the game as well.
Yeah, this looks a little bit troublesome for Artosis, to say the least. The fact that these two bases in the bottom right are pretty much undisturbed this entire game. He's got a nice counter gateways down there, and Artosis was unsuccessful at containing either location. Managed to kill that one mineral only expansion, but like you say, not really a priority target at the moment. Looks like he's going to put some pressure on here to this bottom left pocket expansion. Maybe he can get something done there, but it doesn't look like there's enough tempo there to actually chew through the wall and the cannon before reinforcements would arrive. So yeah, Artosis kind of caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, I think there's a major strategic blunder this game was not going for the bottom right instead of trying to push towards the left-hand side. Because ultimately, if we're playing like a super late game where we're counting like the mineral down to the last mineral, like at the very end, you want to try to deny the bottom right or take it for as long as possible.
Yeah, there definitely seems to be a little bit of confusion or just maybe some hesitation from Artosis with his decision making overall. But he has been macroing pretty damn good this game. Just has had a hard job of actually leveraging any of the advantages he's finding in the trades. And now these bombs could be devastating right on top of all of these mines as well. Luckily, the vultures are picking off the setups before the mines actually connect. Oh, mine actually kills 2 High Templars. It's a massive win, but there's hardly any tanks here to hold the line against the main Dragoon threat of DragOn, and he's still unable to get this 3 o'clock base online. This is a very problematic situation for Artosis now. If he can't get this base online, I think his chances of winning are like dropping close to like 0%.
Yeah, these trades are actually unbelievably good for Artosis. But unfortunately, at this stage of the game, Protoss is so rich that he can just throw everything he has to deny this base, and that puts him in a winning position.
Yeah, he's just not trading well enough against DragOn, unfortunately. He's getting a couple of good mine connections here and there, which is making up some of the difference, but not nearly enough. And you can see that reflected in the supplies, like 108 supply to 150. DragOn's going to be able to remax way quicker than Artosis ever could. This is a nice idea from Artosis, poking in here and picking off a ton of these undefended High Templars. Definitely a big win for him, but again, it's kind of evening out the scales a little bit, but it's not enough compensation to make up for how many tanks he's been losing.
Yeah, Artosis really needs to reverse the economic situation here. It doesn't really matter how good of a trade he gets. If he can't secure that base, or if he can't deny Protoss bases, like the game is just going to be like, the game is just out of his control.
Yeah, he's actually not even been mining this false high ground gas either, so he's probably struggling to make tanks out of these 3 machine shop factories as well. So I don't know how he's going to pull himself out of this situation, and I'm really curious why he didn't try and take the gas at the false high ground when he was denied that 3 o'clock base so many times, and it's been really hurting his unit production. He's been predominantly making vultures for a lot of that time and just squeezing out a few tanks here and there. Once you get mined out and you have 2 depleted gases, he's got hardly any spare gas for tanks. So yeah, really shocked that he didn't take that false high ground gas.
I think Artosis might just be broke in general. Like sometimes it's kind of hard to tell what resource you need to prioritize when you're short on all resources. And also at that stage of the game, it gets pretty chaotic as well. You just don't have the attention span to try and take your gas and populate it. Artosis, I think, going for a last ditch push here to try and land a economic blow on the Protoss, but I expect this to be cleaned up fairly shortly.
Yeah, like we've been saying, there's just not enough tanks to keep fighting the army of DragOn here. Maybe he's in an autopilot mode a little bit because he's not even taking the gas at the 3 o'clock. So yeah, I really don't know what's going on in the mind of Artosis. He's just now taken that refinery, but it's so late. I mean, he's just barely been squeezing out any tanks this entire time, and DragOn gonna have a little bit of a field day, just bombing tanks left, right, and center. Maybe there's a glimmer of hope if Artosis starts churning out gas at this base and can keep pushing down here in the bottom right, and DragOn makes a few blunders. Definitely you can come back in games like this with the other players making mistakes.
Okay, so far this has actually been pretty good for Artosis. He is clawing his way back into this game. He successfully defended the 3 o'clock position, and now he's really leaning onto this bottom area from DragOn. This is really what he should have been doing a long time ago, but now realizing where the game is going to be decided here, he's making the correct decisions now, killing a lot of High Templar here, forcing a lot of storms out as well, but I don't know if it's worth losing all these vultures for, because you really need the vultures to defend the tanks here. But it looks like
Yeah.
Dragon isn't going to try to commit to this.
Yeah, Dragon's being very patient as well. I think he knows that he's very far ahead and just doesn't want to risk like making a tiny blunder. Like one bad engagement from Dragon could be enough for Artosis to really come back in the game. So he's being extremely hyper cautious about how he engages Artosis and just kind of going for little skirmishes here and there with Zealot bombs and a storm or two. They'll seem to be good enough to whittle down Artosis, but now he's got that gas at 3. So that's a total of 450 gas coming in a minute. That is enough to almost produce, like, you know, non-stop 3 tanks at a time. So maybe there's a small hope here of Artosis finally getting a stronger standing army to combat Dragon, but it does look super scary for him still.
Yeah, I think Dragon might be able to sandwich this army here. Once Artosis loses this, I feel like the game is unfortunately just not he's not going to be able to come back from losing this army. He needed to keep it alive.
Yeah, it just looks like it's too hard to trade effectively against Dragon at this point. He's going to have more gas to play with, but he's not growing, right? Like, he needs 2 bases worth of mining to produce off all these factories, and now he's down to just this 1 base at 3 o'clock, so it's going to be seriously difficult for him if he can't get another mining base up.
Well, he did take the 11 o'clock base once again, but Protoss going to try and contest it right away, actually forcing Artosis to lift off immediately. But yeah, without that extra base, Artosis really just doesn't have the economy to be able to trade at all with the Protoss, like, no matter how efficient you can make it.
Yeah, that's the main issue that he's going to have right now. Like, no matter how good his engagements are and how good his macro is, how good his control is, it doesn't matter. If you've not got 2 bases worth of mining, you're only trickling out a small handful of units at a time. It's not going to be enough to keep up with the macro of Dragon here as he resecures that natural expansion down in the bottom right. Little bit worried for Artosis. Now 107 supply to 180. He's going to have maybe like one last Hail Mary attempt at pushing down here in the bottom right, but I have a feeling that Dragon is going to crush it eventually.
Yeah, Dragon just is so ahead in supply at this stage of the game. The one saving grace I have for this push is that it is very tank heavy. And it seems like Dragon's army has a lot of Dragoons, but when these shuttles come in and bomb these tanks, I'm not sure if there's enough vultures to really stop this. Although these Galettes are doing an okay job, yeah, it seems like these tanks are finished here.
Oof, yeah, there's so much army in reserve for Dragon as well, even though that wasn't the most optimal of engagements with the shuttles, man. That's a shame. Yeah, Artosis had some good ideas in this game overall, but kind of stagnated a little bit after he successfully pushed out towards the center and couldn't do enough damage to Dragon in a quick enough time to stop him from curving out nicely with having these 2 rally points set up. Dragon was able to go about the day without much hindrance to his own win conditions, and Artosis kept getting slowed down at that expansion at the 3 o'clock over and over again. He's back to mining this false high ground by floating the main CC, but it's not going to be enough. There's hardly any minerals left in this expansion.
Yeah, once these minerals dry up. Yeah, GG. Well played. Artosis calls it at the very end, and I have to say I'm a little bit disappointed that this game turned out that way, because I really do think Artosis found himself in an incredibly strong position in the mid.
Yeah, and he also forced a really bad fight from Dragon when Dragon was all clumped up attacking from that 11 o'clock base position. It's a shame. Like, he definitely could have turned that into a win. He was a little bit too slow to either punish the bottom right or contain the main rally point, and couldn't get that 3rd gas up online. Kept trying to take that CC, and Dragon kept counterattacking it over and over again. Would have been easier for Artosis had he instead tried to attack bottom right and kind of defended that 3 o'clock at the same time and could actually get that gas online. Then he would have been churning out way more tanks.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a little bit surprised that that was the direction he tried to take the game, because, like, the way he expanded sort of signaled to me that he was aiming to fight for the bottom right-hand side of the map, but
Yeah.
just at some point in the middle, he decided to go all in trying to kill the Protoss's, like, natural and mineral base, which Like, I think the advantage of that is that you get to cut off the reinforcements from the Protoss, but at that point, Protoss already has gateways up at the other side of the map, so it doesn't really do what you want it to do, I guess. I think if he
Yeah.
managed to kill the natural instead of the mineral base, like, that might have been enough of, like, a big enough difference to turn the game.
Yeah, I think so. It was just too slow. Like he did a great job of securing the center and then just wasn't able to do anything with it. And he took a long time to actually kill that mineral only base as well. So, and
Mhm.
that's not ideal compensation. Like killing the mineral only base is nice, but it's not your priority target. And it's certainly
Yeah.
nothing to do with your win condition. So, yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate. I wonder if he was kind of a victim of his own success. Like he realized he was trading really well and just decides to like try and capitalize on it and take control of the center more and more to kind of double down on that victory. But it definitely did hurt him that he got sidetracked and wasn't able to do anything about the bottom right.
Yeah. A lot of times when you're sort of feeling it as Terran, you sort of win big engagements in the middle of the map. I do think it feels very tempting to try and go for the win and push
Mm,
into the main or the natural, like the original main and natural of the Protoss. But I think at that point in the game, that should no longer be your goal. That's no longer, at some point, it stops becoming your win condition because the minerals start mining out, the gases start becoming depleted. And once the other base comes online with its set of gateways, then ultimately there just isn't a whole lot of value to be gained pushing like the initial bases of Protoss.
yeah, it's a shame, man, because honestly, Artosis was in a very fantastic position during the middle of that game. I thought he was actually going to win it once he won that big fight with Dragon.
Mhm.
But yeah, it happens to the best of people. Sometimes you can't translate a good macro and good fights into a win. So Dragon
Mhm.
was very composed and didn't like really sweat the situation and kept skirmishing with Artosis and pulling him to and fro and denying the base over and over again. So there wasn't enough gas for Artosis was super crucial. Looks like we've got Dexter versus Hawk going to be coming up next. That should be a fun little PVZ.
Yeah, I'm really kind of interested in, seeing the way Dexter plays because I don't think I've really seen a whole lot of him. I watched a lot of Dragon, I've watched a decent amount of Hawk, and I've watched a ton of Artosis. Dexter is
Mm,
really the question mark for me. I don't really know. I know how good he is. He's about like low S rank Protoss,
yeah.
but I haven't seen a whole lot of his games, and I don't really know his style.
Yeah, I've only seen a couple of his games in total. I've not seen enough to be really sure about what his style actually is, but he does seem pretty solid from the games I have seen of him. So this should be a very fun PVZ. Hawk's a very strong macro Zerg as well. I don't know how good or what fighting condition Hawk has been in lately. This one might be a little bit tough to call.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to see, but I think both players are very well matched. I know Hawk is kind of an old legend, but I think he hasn't been playing a whole lot recently. So I think Dexter definitely has a good chance of winning. But anyways, it looks like both players are ready. We are getting into the game. This is the IPSL Group D of the round of 16.
Spawning here in the 12 o'clock position, playing the Protoss race. It's Dexter.
Spawning on the bottom right of Neo Sylphid, the American Zerg player and a bit of a legend in the foreigner scene. It is Hawk.
I did cast a little bit of Dexter in some 2v2 games. He's pretty good at 2v2. I think there was like a little Bulgarian battle show match that
Mhm.
he was part of. Yeah, he's a pretty good 2v2 player as well as a 1v1 player.
Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that 2v2s are still like an active part of the Brood War community after all these years. I remember there were like 2v2 leagues back in Korea, but I do also know they were significantly less popular and sort of considered like the area for like the B or not B rankers, but like the B tier players to go to.
Mm.
So I'm a little bit surprised the scene is still well and alive at this day and age.
It's a very aggressive way of playing StarCraft. Like the power spikes are insane. and requires such good teamwork to actually make it work. Pretty fun to cast, honestly. Very chaotic as well, some of the games. Looks like some pretty standard play here from Hawk. Just going for, I think that was an overpull timing. Let's see what we're going to see out of Dexter here. I mean, you could theoretically go for Nexus first, but this is one of the worst maps to go for Nexus first against Zerg. The choke point's a little bit hard to defend against Ling Floods, so looks like it is just going to be a Forge expand from him.
Yeah, I think Dexter is just going to go pretty safe, and that is how you should play with Sylphid. I mean, I even talked about in previous casts that like a common like low level mistake is that you don't understand how to properly wall off on this map because the angles and the unbuildable terrain make it like a little bit weird. But we've also seen even pros fall victim to not being quite sure how to handle the choke point. So I think going Forge first and getting the cannon is just a safe bet here from Dexter.
I would say so. Probably one of the better ways to open on Sylphid to make sure you're reasonably safe. I've seen players like Mini try and go for Nexus first and just get absolutely blown apart by early Zerglings. Not a map I would advise people to get super greedy on. Probably the best map you can find to just play at Forge opening and not take any liberties against Zerg at all. Hawk going to be taking third hatchery down here in the bottom left pocket expansion. Probe still checking around for Dexter. If you can keep this alive for a very long time, that's nice, but it's going to be harder to get inside the main base to confirm if there's a Hydra Den or not with the full Lings if they're controlled well.
Yeah, it's definitely possible that Dexter's going to have to wait until his Corsair comes out before he can scout, and that's always a very scary position to play from as Protoss. Hawk going for the third base with the gas, I think that's always a good choice to make as Zerg. Still think it was a little bit odd in that last game where both players opted to go for the mineral only, despite there being like two alternative gas bases that I think were perfectly acceptable to take. But I digress a little bit. Hawk choosing the richer base this time around.
Yeah, and you'll even see like Zergs on match point like take a very quick gas expansion as their third, even though it's so far away, just because taking a mineral only really does lock you into a very Hydra dense army in the mid game and limits your options, so it's harder for you to represent aggression that the Protoss player needs to respect in your range of play. So like, you know, you can't just go for like triple gas mass muta scourge or a mass amount of lurkers early game or anything like that, and it makes things a lot more comfortable for the Protoss if you do have a mineral only as a Zerg.
Yeah, I think as Protoss, if you know that you're going to be dealing with mass Hydra, the game becomes more comfortable. You just get your Storm out and you take good engages, and you just have your macro. You just macro well, essentially, right? But when Zerg has the option to go Muta, when they have the option to go Lurker, get Lurker contain, that kind of stuff, the game becomes a lot more confusing and difficult for the Protoss player. So I always like plays that give you more options.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. And that's why like StarCraft's a lot more like poker than it is chess, because there's incomplete information and there's like range of plays that you have to factor into your decision making. And if you can deny scouting for a long time as well, it's going to make the Protoss uncomfortable. He's going to be able to come in here and check with a Corsair and see what's up, but he then has to fly home and wait until he has, you know, like 6 Corsairs before checking again, unless he makes a Dark Templar or something. Actually, it looks like Hawk is going to go for a very Hydra-centric style right off the bat with a late tech.
Yeah, I'm expecting a 5th hatch to go down here as well. So it does look like he is going for 5, maybe even 6 hatch Hydra. This is a pretty common build to play as Zerg. It does give you a lot of options in the mid game for potential aggression and map control. And also, I think the way the cannons are placed here for Dexter, I don't think you can actually squeeze a whole lot of cannons, because I don't think you can have more than 1 line of cannons with the way he's set up. I might have to take a look at that again.
Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can't. He'd have to like chuck loads of cannons like the left of the Nexus up here. Yeah, it would be super suboptimal to defend against like a pre-storm Hydra bust timing. If Hawk wants to make non-stop Hydras and go for that, could be somewhat devastating.
Yeah, and Hawk is building quite a number of Hydras, so I'm actually pretty worried for Dexter. He might have to build a ton of cannons to try to defend this, and like have cannons basically up behind on the left-hand side here.
Well, the other option is to just go around killing overlords and not letting the Hydras get detection support, so that you can defend with Dark Templars instead of cannons. So yeah, let's see, because Hawk's lair was so late that there is an option to just, you know, defend with Dark Templars if he was to get aggressive.
That is always an interesting option. And I mean, Dark Templars are already out here, and there is no Overlord coverage in the third base. So this could actually be quite devastating. And of course, if Hawk isn't paying attention, which looks like he is going to be able to save the majority of the drones. Even saving that last one! How did that one slip through there? That Dark Templar is sleeping on the job.
Yeah, that was as nimble as a probe there, that drone. But pressure's coming on now for Hawk, trying to get on top of these cannons before the Templars have enough energy for Storm. Already picking off 3 cannons in quick succession. There's not much to buffer for them either. Dark Templar could come back to try and save the day, but it doesn't. It actually goes on the aggressive and gets picked off in the natural of Hawk. He might need to actually make another Dark Templar to hold on to this. There's not an Overlord in sight, and these Storms are not quite efficient enough to stop this attack from being successful.
Yeah, it seems like Dexter has completely misread the situation here. I don't think he was expecting a pre-storm, or even, I guess at this point, post-storm Hydra bust. So his economy is kind of devastated at this point. And like, honestly, I feel a little bit bad for laughing, but like, I was watching him storm and I was like, oh my god, those are probably the worst possible storms you could have ever done in that situation. Like the first storm landed on his gateway.
Yeah, he clicked the gateway by accident.
Yeah, like you can't get any damage done with that. And the second storm stormed his own High Templar that was coming out of the gateway. Like, that was so unfortunate.
Yeah, that was pretty rough, man. It was a nice idea for him to make a Dark Templar, but maybe he should have made 2. He should have made 1 to harass and 1 to defend against any kind of aggression. He probably would have been fine there if he had done that, but he just assumed that Hawk wouldn't be going for that pre-storm attack timing and got super punished for it.
Well, that is an unfortunate loss for Dexter. I really feel like he didn't get a good opportunity to showcase like his S rank Protoss skill. He just kind of misread and died to a Hydra bus. And like we were saying before, right? The Hydra bus is hard to defend on this map, and I think he didn't miss, but he just didn't do the wall properly, which every Protoss player, even the high level ones, have been falling victim to on this map.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Like, I can't really say much more than that. But, you know, it means is going to drop down to the losers match. He'll be getting to face off against Artosis. So Artosis can't dodge those TVPs still. He's going to have to fight back strong against Dexter if he wants a chance to stay in the tournament. But before that, we will be having that winners match. DragOn versus Hawk, going to be a best of 3. We're going to be going to a little bit of a commercial break here. So run to the bathroom, grab some water, grab some food, crack open one of your 6-pack, whatever you got to do, and join us for that winners match soon. DragOn versus Hawk. Don't go anywhere. guys, welcome back to the IPSL round of 16, Group D. Now on to the winners match coming up in a few moments. Going to be a pretty fun one, I imagine. Dragon versus Hawk. How are you feeling about this series coming up, Rose Hat?
I mean, I'm pretty excited. I know Dragon and Hawk are both pretty legendary players. I've seen them play a lot. I'm pretty excited to watch them go against each other because I actually don't even really know who's favored. I think it might be Dragon a little bit
A
because
little
I
bit.
really don't think Hawk has been playing that much, like
Right.
at least not recently.
That's what I've heard. So yeah, assuming that still is the case, then yeah, I would say a little bit of a favorite to Dragon. And Dragon's a guy that's played a lot of off-race Zerg versus Protoss games in the past. He kind of knows this matchup inside and out. So yeah, I reckon he's a more than a worthy contender to face up against Hawk.
Yeah, I don't mean to talk about Artosis too much, but I do think that if Dragon wins against Hawk, that is kind of best case scenario for Artosis because I think out of all of the opponents, I think he has the best shot at winning against, or he has a much better shot at winning against Hawk compared
Probably.
to Dragon.
Yeah,
But
I
of
can get
course, he has
behind
to
that.
beat Dexter first.
Yeah, it might be nice to also see Artosis play a little bit of TVZ rather than just TVP today. But I think he's going to have a little bit of a hard time in that TVP against Dexter. Um, he did look pretty solid macro wise in that game against Dragon, but the decision making was a little bit lackluster. So
Hmm.
we'll have to see if he can fight back strong in the group or not. Uh, it's kind of weird because, like, when I saw him play in the last round of IPSL, it seemed like he was pretty damn good in TVP. But I have recently heard that he's less confident in TVP all of the sudden again. I don't know if there was some shenanigans that happened to him on the ladder, which kind of shake the foundations of his newfound confidence or what have you. But yeah, he definitely does seem a lot less confident in this round of 16 for some reason.
Yeah, he was definitely playing much more cautious, and I think that definitely hurt him in the late game because he just wasn't able to get a whole lot done with the advantage held.
Mm,
But yeah, I'm hoping he's able to reset, maybe take some notes on on his famous notepad. We'll see, we'll see. Okay,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, coming up next, we do have the best of three between Dragon and Hawk. They're still doing their vetoes. I don't think that Hawk can really pull the same victory that he did against Dexter. I think Dragon is a little bit more tight and clean with his build orders and building placements and
yeah,
SimCity and that kind of stuff. So I'm really expecting a lot of like mid to late game brawls between these two players, especially
right.
since they're both pretty standard.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I definitely feel like there'll be less Hydra Dust centric play from Hawk in this best of three series. I think it's so much harder to uh, surprise Dragon with a timing like that. He knows this matchup pretty much inside and out. Dexter definitely was slacking in his game on Sylphid against Hawk and could have just made an additional DT to be super fine. Wouldn't even have to make any additional cannons. Just one DT would have saved the day, but didn't anticipate him able to get in there before the storm was ready.
Yeah, it was definitely a misjudgment in terms of like what he could get away with. I think he thought an attack might be coming, but it came way earlier than he actually
Yeah.
expected. And I think that like you can almost sort of see it, right? Like Hawk definitely attacked a little bit before we were all expecting to, because he only had like 12 Hydras. Like I don't think he had more than one control group in that attack.
Yeah, it wasn't a crazy amount, maybe slightly more than a control group to start with, but didn't have that many Hydras left over after killing the first few cannons. Was still enough though. Like the cannons were in a bit of an awkward position because of the Sim
Yeah.
City, and the storms were really bad, unfortunately, for Dexter. Definitely misclicked onto that gateway when trying to click beside it, and had no chance at holding at that point. Is what it is, I guess. Let's see
Hmm.
what the vetoes are going to be like. Seems like Dragon's vetoing Andromeda to start things off. Doesn't want anything to do with that very old school map. Then we got Match Point vetoed by Hawk, and then a veto on Generator by Dragon, and now Hawk vetoing Litmus.
I am like very, very, very unsurprised by these toe. Every like weird map has been like chucked out by these two
Yeah,
players.
yeah. I'm not surprised that Hawk got rid of Litmus. It's so brutal for Zerg. Like, it kind of forces you to play like cheesy, weird styles that are actually quite easy to defend for the Protoss. So yeah, looks like Dragon's gonna pick Sylphid and Hawk's gonna pick Attitude and Octagon last. So okay, that's a pretty good set of maps to get started with.
Yeah. Okay. The first game is gonna be. I don't want the word that's coming to my brain is rematch, but it's not a rematch. It's just a different PVZ on the same map as previous. But once again,
No.
I'm like not expecting Dragon to die to anything early game from Hawk. I'm expecting his walls to be, crystal clean, and I want all Protosses to take note of how to properly do a wall off from Dragon. Get out
Well,
your
hopefully,
notepads, everyone.
hopefully that you're not caster cursing that, and we actually do see a
Oh
somewhat
God, please
of a
no.
longer game. But yeah, imagine if you say that and Dragon just blunders accidentally for whatever reason.
Oh, you're right. I might have cursed Dragon.
Looks like we're messing with the turn rate right now. Just gonna boost it up to 24 because we're all from NA here.
Yeah, we're all scrubs.
Hey, speak for yourself. I'm over here in Britbong land.
Oh, that's true. You got you get to play in the same server as actually, do you get to play on the same server as DeWalt? Does DeWalt even play on EU?
This is a good question. He's actually maybe even closer to Asia than Europe in some regards. He's far east side of Russia,
Yeah,
isn't
he
he?
lives in the Siberia part of Russia, not the
Yeah.
Europe part.
It's good for him though. I mean, he can get decent ping against Chinese and Korean players. Certainly a bonus, but okay,
Yeah.
looks like both players going to be ready. Hope you guys are as well. Jumping into it now, the IPSL round of 16, Group D, winners match: Hawk versus Dragon on Sylphid.
All right, back again on Sylphid for the third time in a row. Spawning on the top side, it is our Canadian Protoss player. It is Dragon.
Down here in the bottom right, also a flying creature, but maybe not quite as fiery, representing America on Zerg, Hawk.
These are the exact same spawn positions as the last game. I really hope I did not Caster's Curse this into becoming the same game.
Well, you shouldn't have said it.
Yeah, now it's bound to happen. Oh, okay. One thing I will point out, though, that is different. Okay,
Yeah.
Dragon is mining more optimally than Dexter. This is something I could not unsee the second I noticed it. But Dexter misplaced one of his probes on one of the mineral patches, and it was like taking a long way home. And I was like staring at that, like like the entire time I was focusing on his base. But
yeah, you can set up some clean lines at that 12 o'clock spawn, but if you don't bother and you just send them to mine, there's some really bad return paths that the workers can take. But yeah, everything looks clean here from Dragon. Like, nothing looks bad at all.
Yeah, Dragon honestly is just one of those players that does everything properly and plays standard, but executes everything so cleanly that if you're just not as good of a player as him, you're just gonna lose.
Oh, and by the way, this is a 9-pool gas trick from Hawk, I believe. Is he gonna make a bunch of lings and just try and maybe punish Dragon? It's certainly possible.
That would
Go for a run by maybe as well.
That would be interesting, but Dragon did go for Ward, so I don't know how much damage this could really do. The probe actually comes into this base, so can you really tell that this is a 9-pool?
Yeah, but how far the Overlord is away from the hatchery? Like, I guess they could like idle the Overlord, and with the three eggs morphing and the Overlord being that close to the hatchery, it's 9-pool, and you can just make 2 cannons. He should be fine. I didn't see the exact timing of the lings and the cannons relatively. I don't think these lings are gonna get inside. Let's see.
I'm surprised he's not making the gateway in front of the cannons right now. Is he gonna get a Nexus? That'd be so greedy. No way.
Yeah, you can. You can go Nexus into Gateway from
Really?
here. Yeah. If he wants to, it's up to him. You certainly can do that. Sometimes it's actually
Well,
better to do that, honestly. Like, you've invested in 2 cannons. Like, how much more do you want to hurt your economy?
yeah, that's fair. And I mean, Hawk isn't really committing to additional lings. He looks like he's just going to build the 6 here. So yeah, I guess Nexus is definitely the correct decision in this stance.
Yeah, making the gateway kind of feels pointless because like they've already got enough lings to kill an early zealot that you could make anyway. So yeah, like just make the Nexus into gateway. It's way more optimal.
Yeah, and this wall already looking a lot better than Dexter's. Like you can fit almost
So
3
much
rows
more.
of cannons. I feel like
Yeah,
in,
so
in
much
this
more.
one.
he's got room to spare. This is free real estate, okay?
Yeah. Okay,
Doesn't it
Hawk
like
taking the exact same base as last time. I kind of wonder if he's gonna try again to go for like a 5 Hydra. I think his Overlord, upon seeing the Sim City of Dragon, he might recognize that he can't do the same bust as he.
Yeah, and no Hydroden, I don't think, from Hawk this time. So yeah, just going to do a 3-base lair build. So not the same build that we saw being utilized last time around against Dexter. He went lairless with a lot of hatcheries and drones into a pre-storm timing. This time around, going to be a much more orthodox build, but this is off the back of a 9-pool gas trick with 2 cannons from Dragon. So a little bit more comfortable for Dragon overall. I mean, you feel okay forcing 2 cannons as Zerg, but it's not the most optimal scenario either.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you would have just like macroed and droned as hard as.
Yeah.
And I think in the early game, it's almost deceiving how much damage you're doing to yourself just by picking a build order that cuts drone.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, like theoretically, that could have punished Dragon. Like, you know, maybe he wasn't quite as crisp with his scouting and throwing down the gate, throwing down the cannon, and suddenly you get a run by with those lings, and it kind of escalates, and you do a lot of damage. But yeah, forcing 2 cannons is okay compensation. Somewhat resorts the game to being more even again, but there's still a tiny slight edge for Protoss when the dust settles.
Hawk is also changing up his strategy quite a bit in other ways, going for Spire fairly early on. Oh no.
Okay. Damn.
Well, hopefully that isn't a foreshadowing of things to come.
Oh,
okay,
2
2 zealots.
Yeah, this is
just
pretty
don't have
spicy.
any defenses here.
Yeah, he's got 6 lings going to be coming on the way to help this, but oh, he kills a drone and forces the lost mining time. That is huge for Dragon. I mean, Hawk is already kind of skimping on his economy with the early game 9-pool, and that's just setting him further and further behind. His macro hatcheries are going to be slightly delayed because of that.
Yeah, that's quite unfortunate for Hawk. I'm a little bit surprised he didn't have really anything outside of the Protoss Natural watching for move-outs there. It looks like Dragon's Corsair is out. We're going to get a full scout and see the Spire as well. So I think this is overall an amazing start.
Yeah, and critically, Dragon doesn't see a Hydra Den. There's no cross tech from Hawk, so he doesn't really have to be scared of anything besides like an Ogre Zerg play with a bunch of Mutas and Scourge trying to run it down on him. So yeah, he can, like, you know, make a cannon in his mineral line, get up to 6 Corsairs, and play a little bit safe to make sure he doesn't get hard countered by a bunch of Muta Scourge, and has nothing else to fear. There's not going to be any form of Hydra bust for the remainder of the game, so he just has to survive against the Mutalisk threat.
It looks like he is already getting cannon. I think that's 3 cannons in the main.
Wow.
Playing it very, very, very safe. I mean, once you have an advantage like that, killing a drone, denying mining time, and a build order advantage from the beginning, it is definitely a good decision. Play it a little bit extra safe and make sure the Zerg back.
Yeah, well, if he could pick off all of the Corsairs, that would be great. He's not going to get the Corsairs, and he's barely got enough Mutas to try and chew through 2 cannons, but not a third, so he will have to pull away as that other cannon warps in, unfortunately, and tries to come in for another connection on those Corsairs with the Scourge. Unable to get it, though. Really good optimizations in the defense here from DragOn. But let's see how well Hawk can drone up behind this, because he forced out a lot of defenses from DragOn as well. Only 4 drones mining at this third. Feels a little bit light. He is squeezing a few out. Hopefully he's able to transfer over a drone or 2 as well to supplement. But yeah, this doesn't feel like a strong enough economy from Hawk, and he didn't really find any damage besides the cannons he's forced.
Yeah, it really feels like everything Hawk has been trying this game just hasn't been working out. He spent so much larva on Scourge that could have been drones, and the Scourge unfortunately just didn't do a whole lot. I think he was trying to catch DragOn off guard and like snipe his Corsairs, but it just didn't work at all. Luckily for him, he has this one Sunken and Overlord combo here, so he can shoo away the DT. But look at all these useless Scourge flying about. Those could have been drones.
Yeah, I mean, they might help out later on as the game progresses and DragOn gets a bigger and bigger Corsair fleet, but it's definitely stopped Hawk from snowballing a massive economy. Oh, misrallied drones coming back home. Luckily, the DT didn't find them, I guess, but that's definitely a lot of lost mining time for him as well. And look how late this macro hatchery is at the third base. It's kind of insane.
Yeah, things are looking more and more like things are going bad to worse for Hawk here, honestly. Like maybe just like reset, go next game, man. Like I don't know, this game is cursed for him.
Yeah, if this was a practice game, you'd be feeling pretty annoyed at yourself. Like, damn, I've managed to put myself into a bad position in the first few minutes of the game. Would be like a come on, let's just go re kind of timing. Let's see though, maybe he can turn it around. You know, this, when you're this ahead in StarCraft, like it's kind of reliant. Your opponent's kind of relying on you making mistakes to come back. But obviously, we're all human and we do make mistakes even at the pro gamer level. So maybe there's a few missteps, a few rakes that DragOn ends up stepping on that helps Hawk back into this game, as Hawk takes his 4th base now at the 6 o'clock location, throws down another macro hatchery as well. Gonna go up to like a 7 hatchery macro. DT's coming in after the overlords get picked off by the Corsair, though. A little bit of an annoying moment. Oh, good block with the Hydras. Actually stopped the DT getting in there too quickly, and now can pull out those drones. Only lost 2 of those workers thus far.
Yeah, that looked like it could have been a disaster for Hawk, but that really quick reaction speed with the block on the Hydras manages to save a lot of the drones. But now the drones are coming back. The DT gets one more swipe on the backside and runs away with 3 kills. So still pretty good for Hawk. And this Corsair fleet has actually been a menace as well, killing a whole bunch of mutas, killing all the overlords at the 3rd base. Man, DragOn is playing this style perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, Hawk does know about this DT down here at the 6 o'clock, so he's going to come pick this off. It's going to be rough because he's going to be on predominantly Hydras against the Zealot Templar army. And yeah, DragOn can do so much damage with these Zealots in conjunction with the Corsairs in the sky as well. Going to be really tough to hold the line against this. Ideally, he needs to start making a ton of lurkers, because you can't really afford to take air superiority away to go Muta Hydra anymore. He kind of has to go lurkers. And I'm not even sure if he's going to have lurkers in time to defend this. It looks like he is going to have to fight with pure Hydra.
Yeah, this is such a scary army from DragOn. Like, he combines his forces together. It's a very classic move that Protoss can do, where the army sort of distracts everything on the ground, and while that happens, the Corsair kill all the overlords. He doesn't even need to do that. He actually finds an opening in Hawk's defenses there and snipes 2 overlords, supply blocking his opponent.
Yeah, I mean, this is just going from bad to worse now for Hawk. He's got a small skirmishing force checking out the 3rd base here of DragOn, but all of his army's in position to shut this down. Okay, he does snipe 1 High Templar for a little bit of compensation. It's not terrible. Can he get another one? He's diving back in to try and pick off another High Templar. Indeed, he does find it. That's something at least, but it's not the best of trades considering the game state overall. It does take a little bit of the wind out of DragOn's sails if he's only on like 2 High Templars total with this army. He hasn't got as much fighting potential, but he's still going to have like 4 storms total to work with those two High Templars as he pushes into this false high ground.
Oh my god, I'm getting very worried for Hawk. Hawk absolutely cannot defend this base if he tried it, like, because this is such like a small choke point here. It's like storm heaven. But now that the Protoss army has been uncontested, he's actually going to move straight in to Hawk's natural here. Hawk is going to try to sandwich this army and take an engage outside of the natural. Some storms are going down, but they're not quite the storms that maybe DragOn was looking for, but it still might not be enough for Hawk to try and come back here.
I don't know. He did get rid of most of the storms from DragOn, so should be able to clean up this army. Actually, DragOn retreating right now. This was probably one of the best case scenarios for Hawk. He's still not out of the woods yet, but honestly, that defense went a lot better than I thought it was with the target firing on those High Templars. DragOn going to get a tiny bit of damage to the economy inside the main base, but honestly, not a lot besides some lost mining time, really. Hawk's got this fourth base as well, but he's still losing a lot of overlords to these Corsairs and getting consistently supply blocked. Look at how much idle lava there is.
Man, this is the 1-2 punch that every Zerg player fears from Protoss. Like, while you're distracted fighting the army, the Corsairs come in and just kill all of your overlords, supply blocking you for infinity amounts of time. And they're still being a menace here. Okay, it looks like they are going to be driven back and killed for the most part. The Corsair count being reduced from 8 to 3. So finally, a bit of reprieve here for Hawk. And yeah, you're right. That engagement actually went really well for him. I'm actually very surprised it ended up the way that it did, but I think it all comes down to the target fire. Once all the High Templar get eliminated before they can actually storm, the Protoss army suddenly like loses a lot of its power, and DragOn just like was forced to split off his army. The back half retreats back to his base, and the front half needed to try and, you know, make a beeline for the main.
Well, DragOn going to come in here and play whack-a-mole with that false high ground. Fifth base attempt from Hawk yet again. Behind this, DragOn taking the 3 o'clock as his fourth base. Kind of playing keep away from the bulk of Hawk's army right now. Just wants to see if he can find room to skirmish and then pull back. And Hawk doing a good job of not committing to the engagements to allow storm value from DragOn, but it is kind of good for DragOn if he gets away with this fourth base timing. And since this is pure Hydra, Hawk is going to have to play so damn well to make this work.
DragOn actually like going for the third base once again, but now he pulls back and tries to engage from a different position. This actually might be a much better engage for DragOn here. These Hydras are so clumped, they're gonna fall to a whole bunch of storm here. That's a great one in the middle of those Hydras, right when the lag hit as well. But there's a lot of Hydras coming from the bottom hand side here. Unfortunately, doesn't look like it's quite gonna be enough. I think Protoss is just barely gonna come out of this with a victory here.
Yeah, it was a nice attempt from Hawk to try and go for a pincer and flank that army, but not good enough. GG is called, and DragOn with a pretty convincing lead in the series, 1-0.
Yeah, honestly, that was quite unfortunate. It really looked like Hawk could start making a comeback after that big engage outside of his natural, but DragOn deciding to sort of play it a lot safer afterwards, not committing the same way that he did again, because I do think that the way that Hawk comes back is if DragOn repeats the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
But it looks like he played a little bit smarter this time around, not being too reckless.
Yeah, no, I really like the way DragOn went about that game. Hopefully Hawk can find a better opening to this next map. We've got Attitude coming up. And I mean, let's be honest, like it was a very suboptimal opening from Hawk, like going for the 9 pool, not doing anything with it, and then having so many shenanigans happen at the third base, you know, the Zealot coming in and delaying the mining time, and then having to evacuate the drones again because of the DT, and like you can see how late everything was for Hawk in that game. So as long as he gets away with a better start here, maybe he can have a much better showing against DragOn.
Yeah, like we can't forget the early game, right? Like it's just like every possible thing that Hawk tried just like didn't go well for him. Like
Mm.
the Zergling opener, the Dragon's counterattack, right? Like everything just like not really quite going Hawk's way. But some of that is because of I think just pure bad luck. Not necessarily like a reflection of the skill of the players.
Yeah.
So I think this time around, Hawk might have a much more competitive game, and I think he can definitely win.
Yeah, no, I think you might be right there. Looks like we're gonna turn the turn rate down to 20 just to avoid any kind of lag spikes that we had there. And Attitude, honestly, pretty damn good map for ZVP. So yeah, this is a good opportunity for Hawk to equalize in the series.
Yeah, Sylphid is a pretty Protoss favored map once the game actually really starts to get going. Obviously, the wall off is like a bit of a hurdle that a lot of Protoss players struggle with. But once you kind of get past that stage, the map becomes a lot easier to play than other maps.
Yeah. Okay, looks like both players are already jumping into game number 2 now in the winners match, round of 16, Group D, Hawk versus Dragon on Attitude.
All right, spawning on the bottom right-hand side, the Zerg player from the United States of America, it is Hawk.
You said that so proudly. In the bottom left, soaring high in this series currently on Protoss, representing Canada, it's Dragon.
Despite not being American, I still have to shout out my American boys down over south of the border. We all deserve a bit of solidarity as foreigners in the StarCraft scene.
Yeah. I like it when people come together rather than, stay divided based on borders and other ridiculous concepts.
But obviously, a little bit of friendly competition is always fun. It's like maybe I should have been like from the disgusting states to our south, the 11th province of Canada. It is American.
Yeah, like the original Coca-Cola, whereas Canada's like Diet Coke, right?
I don't know about that. I wouldn't go that far. Hey, you should be on our side. You're from the UK, right?
Yeah. You're supposed to be part of the Commonwealth, so I'll let you slide.
Yeah. All right, talking a little bit about this game, it seems like Hawk is going to open something a lot more standard than previous games. This looks like overpool to me.
Wait, no, that was like an 11 pool or something. I think he was going to 11 hatch and then got first scouted by Dragon, so threw down the pool rather than tried to take the hatchery. I'm guessing that's what happened here.
Oh, that is a little bit of an odd opener. I guess it's one of those openers that you never actually planned to do, but it just kind of happens.
Yeah, you don't want to go 11 pool, 12 pool against Protoss. That's a reactionary thing from being scouted so early, so he doesn't just get blocked and shut out from taking his expansion and can't do anything.
Yeah, once again, a little bit of an unfortunate opener here from Hawk, but I still think he's probably still in a better state than last game. I would assume so.
It's not terrible, yeah. Like, against random, like, you're always like worse against one race no matter what you open with as Zerg. Like if you overpull, it's kind of okay against Terran and Protoss. Sorry, kind of okay against Protoss and Zerg, not so much against Terran. And if you 12 pull, it's kind of okay against Zerg and Terran, but not so good against Protoss. And Terran doesn't have that problem when you play against random. They can just Rax expand every single time and be fine against all three races, but Zerg doesn't have that luxury, so you usually won't see a Zerg wanting to 12 pull against Protoss.
Yeah, it's a bit of a rough start here from Hawk, a little bit suboptimal once again, but it shouldn't really dictate the game a whole lot. He is getting that third base rather quickly, but the third is at the mineral only. He didn't get the 3 o'clock base that I would have expected him to do.
Yeah, it's going to force him into that Hydra-centric style that we've talked about. You can play a good battle Zerg on Attitude. If Hawk wants to do that here and just try and stop Dragon from expanding rapidly and getting additional gases online, that's definitely a good win condition. A lot of Zergs like to play Battle Zerg on maps like this. If Hawk can pull it off, definitely won't matter too much taking this mineral only as his third, but he's going to have to really seize the map control away from DragOn in the mid game.
Yeah, we'll see how he plays. This puts Protoss definitely in a very comfortable position. All he really needs to do is macro well and take good engagements. But ultimately, this plays into Hawk's strength as well. He's known for playing like very good standard games, for having really good macro, for having good decision making. So I think we're just going to see both players try to brawl it out in the mid game and just see who comes out on top.
Yeah, it definitely does seem like that's going to be the kind of game we're going to have between these two. Wonder how quick of a fourth base Hawk is going to take. It's slightly more comfortable for him to expand than DragOn with these positions. So theoretically, he could get away with a reasonably early fourth base at the 3 o'clock. Have to see how greedy he wants to get. DragOn kind of getting away with just standard greed, just one single cannon. Everything seems to be on time. I don't think we're going to be seeing anything too fancy out of either players. It's a little bit annoying for DragOn that he can't get in here and get confirmation scout with this pro, but he's pretty sure that there's nothing spicy happening.
Yeah, everything looks very normal. We're actually going to go for Spire here, which is a little bit unexpected because of the fact that 2 gas, but it's always good to get it just for the Scourge. Chase away the Corsair. Never a bad idea.
And you can still get 5 mutas, you know, just to like deal with the early Zealot timings and put on a bit of pressure, maybe sniper probe or 2 while you're trying to target fire the Corsairs with your Scourge as well, if you're confident with your micro. But I doubt he'll make like a full Ogre Zerg commitment with like 10 mutas, 12 plus Scourge with this 2 gas configuration.
Honestly, it might even be better to go for the 5 mutas, because if DragOn Corsair scouts that you went for the mineral only base, he might just assume that you're going Hydras and skip the cannons, allowing you to get quite a bit of damage done. So that's also a possibility, I think.
And look, Hawk is actually taking that very early 4th base like I thought he might, but how will he fare against this early timing from DragOn? Got some Zealots coming in now, total of 5, and not that many units out for Hawk, and hasn't started those mutas yet if he was going to make them, so he's going to have to play keep away and avoid losing too much drones to these Zealots. And actually DragOn being super annoying, just going to go after the hatchery that was just thrown down before the Lynx can engage, slowing down the macro here from Hawk considerably, and actually winning the fight against the Lynx as well.
Yeah, these Zealots are doing a whole lot of damage. I actually recognize this build because for a brief period of time I was trying to learn Protoss, and I remember Jay Yun made a video on like a Protoss opener for beginners, and it was something like you go Forge Fast Expand into Corsair and you just build 5 Zealots and you send the 5 Zealots out without +1, and it catches a lot of Zergs off guard. And it really seems like it caught Hawk off guard, because that Zealot got 3 drone, like, was it 2 or 3 drone
Something
kills?
like that.
Yeah, and it forced out a ton of Lings as well. So that was actually really well played by DragOn. It really puts him in the driver's seat of this game.
Yeah, it's a really noob-friendly build that actually works at a high level as well, because a lot of times Zergs are skimping out on the amount of units they're making at this stage in the game. Sometimes they might have Mutalisks about to pop out once that attack comes in, but in this case Hawk hadn't even started any units when these Zealots actually start attacking. This Sunken Colony is in a bit of a weird position. I guess it's helping out a little bit, but actually gets taken out. Does find connections on one of those Corsairs with a pair of Scourge, but still taking damage to his economy from these speed lots. Now losing a bunch, trying to drill against them while the Lings come in. DragOn doing so much damage with such little investment that this fast 4th base attempt from Hawk is getting severely punished.
Wow, DragOn is actually such a beast in Protoss versus Zerg. He's playing so aggressively and dealing so much damage with this Corsair Zealot combo attack, forcing Hawk to spend a lot of his larva on Scourge and Lings and extra Overlords as well.
Yeah, he's supply blocked him pretty significantly. And yeah, that fast fourth base hasn't been able to add up to much for Hawk thus far. Now he might be able to start to think about saturating it a little bit now that he's killed those rounds of Zealots. And that also gives some breathing room here to DragOn himself to come all the way up here to the 9 o'clock, take his own gas expansion rather than just taking the mineral only. That's a nice optimization from him. There is a lot of macro potential though from Hawk. You know, this is 7 hatcheries worth of macro. It's a little bit scary for Protoss. They can easily contend with your 8 gateways this way, and he is starting to pump out a couple of Mutalisks as well now, going to go up to at least 5 to help fight back against these Zealots, and has a round of Scourge as well to keep the Corsairs at bay. So DT is going to be unsuccessful at coming in here and putting on too much pressure.
DragOn trying to be sneaky here with this 1 DT, but unfortunately he's not going to escape with his life here. DragOn trying to repeat the success of like a previous game. Oh, actually, this one might sneak in here. There's only 2 Lings, but no, it gets caught from Hawk. Good reaction from the Zerg player here. Not going to fall for that again. Meanwhile, back in DragOn's base, 2 Archons being morphed. And the Gateway Explosion... I was going to say the Gateway Explosion has started, but he only has 4. He only has 4 gateways.
Well, 6 total, yeah. So the Zerg actually has more production than the Protoss when you think about it. Like if you like match hatcheries to gateways, there's 7 hatcheries versus only 6 gateways. So Hawk can outproduce DragOn and take away the control of the game. But with these 2 Archons coming in, this Mutalisk flock not as strong, and good dancing around with the Scourge as well, making sure that those Archons act well as point defense turrets and take all of those out. So this army is still a little bit scary, but Hawk should have enough production that if DragOn was to try and be aggressive, he should be able to shut that down in a heartbeat. So I imagine soon Hawk's gonna try and be a little bit more aggressive once he gets a few more rounds of units. So he's actually ahead in supply of DragOn because of how many hatcheries he's been pumping out of.
Yeah, and I think DragOn might have committed a little bit too much on that attack. I think he got a little bit too high off of his success and tried to win as much, got a little bit impatient, a little bit high off of his success, a little bit overconfident, sacrificed a lot of Zealots. And he just doesn't have a very big army right now. It's starting to look actually very scary for DragOn here, I think.
Theoretically, yeah, but there is still these Corsairs alive, so they can help out against the Mutalisks from just diving in and sniping Templars for free. There's still some viability to this unit composition from DragOn. Looks like he's going to try and pick off the Overlord here, and was rotating his army around, but chose to start to retreat with that ground force, and now just skirmishing with the Mutas, bruising them up as much as possible so that High Templar snipes become more and more of a challenge and a commitment from Hawk later on. Now we see a bunch more units coming out from DragOn. This is going to be the actual attack that comes in. Oh, Archon actually gets 1 Sonic Shockwave off on that flock of Mutas, softening them up more. There are a lot of juicy High Templars ripe for sniping, but with these Corsairs screening, going to be a lot more difficult for Hawk to cancel out that splash damage.
All right, big attack gonna come here from DragOn. I feel like DragOn's army just isn't really big enough, but we're gonna see how good the storms are. Those are amazing storms, but unfortunately there are a whole lot of Hydras on the backside here, able to snipe all of those High Templar, and I think Hawk might have successfully defended this base, but not before these Corsairs find the entire flock of Overlords here. This could be an immense amount of damage that I don't think Hawk can really afford to take. Wow. Oh my lord! That is a massacre.
Yeah, he has only just barely supply blocked him after killing all of those units, but it's still very costly to lose that many Overlords to those Corsairs, and enough damage was done with those storms that he's keeping the pressure on, now trying to hit the drone line at this 3rd expansion of Hawk. But luckily for Hawk, you know, it's not going to be too challenging for him to macro up another army, but there's not going to be a massive force to counterattack with. The Zealots still doing a lot of damage to the drones, and if Hawk does go back into making a round of drones before making units, it's going to make it that much harder for him to punish this 4th base that DragOn's trying to take.
Oh my god, the Overlord massacre continues on as these Corsairs, only a couple of them left, still running around rampant, just like killing everything in the sky. All right, that one might escape with his life, but I think at this point, Dragon's attack has officially ended. I was very skeptical as to how much damage it was really going to do because the army felt very small. But the Corsairs just ended up killing so many overlords that Hawk, I think, wasn't able to really uh,
Yeah.
reinforce like effectively.
Yeah, he's going to have to sack this 6 o'clock base. There's no way you can hold on to this. It's a shame because the wraparound with the Hydras picking off the High Templars was actually nice, but he didn't storm dodge at all on the front line. So even though he picked off those High Templars, Dragon still got good enough trades to keep the tempo going. And now there's no room to stop this 4th base from being seized. And it's going to be 4 base versus 4 base. And this is a more Battlezerg centric style from Hawk. He's not got a hive in sight to nullify the Dragoons with Darkstorm or anything, and he's barely even got any drones in his main base as well, mind you. So yeah, this is not ideal. Like, the economy for Hawk is kind of in shambles from the relentless aggression.
Yeah, I think Hawk had a chance to take a really good fight there, and he did actually take a fairly good engagement, but because he lost so many overlords, he wasn't really able to rebuild his army. And now I think Dragon is just going to bust in here. His army looks absolutely unstoppable. GG! Dragon takes the series 2-0 and makes it out of IPSL round of 16 group.
Wow. Yeah, very deserving for Dragon. He played fantastically well today. Cool as a cucumber against Artosis on Sylphid and didn't even blink twice despite Artosis initially steamrolling into the center of the map, and now 2-0ing Hawk in very convincing fashion as well. Definitely deserving to get out of this group first. That means we'll have Hawk waiting in that final match to see who is he going to be playing out to try and still get out of the group. It's going to be that losers match. I wonder if Artosis can actually beat Dexter or not, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a disappointing result from Hawk, but honestly, yeah, you're right. Dragon played absolutely out of his mind that game, showing us just how good he is at Protoss versus Zerg. First game playing a little bit more defensive. Second game going absolutely nuts, like balls to the walls, aggression, starting with the initial 5 Zealots, and then just once he got Zealot speed, continuous harassment with Zealots and Corsairs. He's just yeah, he's just really good, man. I think these players might be good.
Yeah, I think so. And he's going to be hopping into the voice here in just a few moments for a little bit of a quick interview. I think he's here now. How are you feeling after your performance today, Dragon?
Pretty good, man. I was kind of nervous because I think my condition today was not great. Feeling kind of tired and sick, but I also think maybe Hawk wasn't playing that much,
Yeah.
and I was pretty confident against Artosis in general. Like I picked Artosis, so I was pretty confident against him.
You
But
had some
overall,
good
I think the
results
games went
against
well for
him.
me.
Yeah, I think you've had really good results against Artosis in recent times, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that Hawk hasn't been playing a whole bunch, but you did. I think you did play pretty damn good today, even if you don't feel like you played your best games. What's your situation like right now? How much are you like practicing at the moment?
Well, usually I only play on weekends, um, except for maybe a few odd games during the weekdays. And then this week, like usually when I prepare for tournaments, I don't play so much as I like look at replays and think about what I'm gonna do and like plan out stuff in the single player maybe. But the last couple days I was too tired to do that really, which is why I said my condition wasn't very good, and I didn't get much sleep last night either.
Okay.
So it wasn't ideal, but like I'm still gonna play well either way. Like it just kind of the icing on the top of the cake wasn't there,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
fine.
Well, how do you feel about your like overall chances of winning the whole thing going into the round of 8?
I give myself about 5%.
Okay,
Only 5.
Well,
it's pretty
I mean,
modest.
fun at the wall there in the tournament. Don't
That's
forget
funny.
that.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I hear. Yeah, it's definitely going to be tough for you if you do face off against them. Your PvP
Yeah.
is not the worst though. Like I've seen a lot worse PvP from other guys.
for sure. I mean, my objective is just to get top 4 again, so I can get seed again. If I get that, I'm pretty happy.
Okay, yeah, that sounds reasonable. So what about StarCraft do you like so much and like keeps you coming back to compete in tournaments like this?
I think it keeps me coming back because I can never figure it out entirely. Like there's always more stuff that I want to know, more stuff to learn, and like
Mm,
the levels are so high that you can always lose to somebody. Like you can never really beat the game. And I like thinking about how like builds and strategies fit together and trying to solve the game in my own way.
yeah.
Like I'm more interested in solving stuff than like winning through any means possible.
Okay.
So if I have like a game where I just win um, like a normal game, any normal game, and like I played it the same kind of game 1,000 times already, that doesn't make me as happy as like I solved a scenario which was giving me trouble and I won that game.
Yeah.
So for me, it's mostly about the knowledge and the solving.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, right side, you got something?
I mean, I want to talk a little bit about the game. So you even said that you're pretty confident against Artosis. You even picked him to be in this group. But I'd say the games against Artosis was the closest game that you've played in your run here. Like it really seemed like Artosis took control of that game, took the middle of the map there, and had you sort of on the back foot. But you were able to claw your way back here and just not get too impulsive or too pressured by his control of the map, and just kind of like systematically take apart his defenses.
Right. Well, my PvT is kind of a work in progress still. There are parts of the game where I'm not sure what to do.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess I kind of came out in that game a little bit. But even so, like in that game, I wasn't thinking, oh shit, I'm gonna lose. I was thinking it's Artosis, I'm gonna win still, even if I'm in an uncomfortable situation, because I'm confident in my ability to take back the game into a situation where I'm more comfortable and like just deny bases and engage where engagements are better for me. But like yeah, in that game, he had a good center position, and it was kind of hard to figure out what to do with my army. I guess I just kind of had to wait for him to come to me and take more bases, so he spread himself thinner. So I was able to find more holes in his defenses at that point.
Makes sense. And you mentioned you didn't really prep against Hawk for that series, or did you actually come
Like I
into
had an
it?
idea of what could go down. I was like mentally prepared for it in my head, but I didn't play any practice games, and I didn't look at anything in single player or whatnot.
Mhm, mhm. I mean, I think you played a really interesting build in the last game where you went sort of well, you opened Forge first, and then you just started like what with the 5 zealot attack, and then you just kept on attacking with zealots and corsairs. It really seems like it kind of feels like corsairs are kind of the backbone of your PVZ. Is that an accurate assessment?
I think it's fairly accurate, but like in PvZ, if you skip Corsairs, you can't really win against good players. So it has to be the backbone of any decent player at this point. Like there are alternate styles that you can use, but they're kind of high variance.
Mhm.
Not something that I would use every game. So yeah, if you have good Corsair usage in PvZ, then you're generally on the right track. In that game specifically versus Hawk, I noticed that his Spire was pretty late compared to my tech.
Mhm.
So that's why I went with the Zealots, because I thought maybe I could supply block him and force him to like divide between Scourge and Lings to defend both my attacks. And also that map has a really short rush distance, which influenced my decision as well. So I thought that timing attack would do some real damage, and it worked out for me.
Mhm. Well, congratulations on your victories so far. Going into the round of 8, besides the obvious Bonneth and DeWalt, are there any other players that you're kind of looking at and thinking, oh God, I don't know I'm gonna beat this player?
Um, Pretty much everyone is like so strong in that lineup. I think it's Bonathan DeWalt and a bunch of like tip top Zergs,
Hmm.
like Ian Zerg and Red and stuff like that. So none of them are easy, man. I think the easiest possible opponent for me would be whoever messes tomorrow aside from Ian Zerg. And that's still pretty difficult. Like it's I guess it'd be Julia or Zero. Probably I don't think Worst has much of a chance in that group, fortunately for him. So yeah, it'd either be Bonus DeWalt or a Zerg. And all the Zergs are really strong. So I mean either way it's gonna be a tough match. I just
Yep.
have to see who I get and see if I can prepare something.
All right. Well, I wish you the absolute best of luck. Congrats on your victories today. Shin, do you have anything else to add or ask?
No, that's it from me. Unless you want to say something to any of your fans or friends watching Dragon.
Shout out to a couple guys who I know are watching. Shoot and Snipe.
Nice,
That's
nice.
it.
Well, good luck in the rest of the tournament, man. I'm sure you can play better and better games if you get some better sleep, and you might surprise yourself. Might at least get that seed for the next tournament. So yeah, best of luck to you, and really good job today on getting out of the group.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to be going to a little bit of a commercial break now. So run to the bathroom, grab some water, grab some fruit, whatever you got to do. Crack open some beer, open your popcorn. We've got that losers match coming up next. Artosis going up against Dexter. Don't go anywhere. Hey guys, welcome back to the IPSL. We're now on to that losers match here in the round of 16, Group D. Artosis going to be facing off against Dexter here in just a few minutes. Are you hype, Hut Rice? Because I feel kind of hype about this set.
I mean, I'm always hype when I'm casting Artosis. Artosis is, of course, my favorite player. I always love to see him play, and he's also the last Terran hope. All the Terran players out there, like, we're all cheering on Artosis because without Artosis, the rest of IPSL will not feature a single Terran game. Which
I mean,
is
I'm not even a Terran
tragic.
player, and I'm going to be rooting for him. Let's see. It looks like both players are going to be ready. We're going to be getting started now, guys. IPSL round of 16, Group D, Artosis versus Dexter on Attitude.
Spawning as the classic Magenta Protoss, the man, the myth, the legend, the American player who currently lives in Canada. It is Artosis.
And his opponent up here in the top left, representing Bulgaria on Protoss, Dexter.
I'm not going to lie, as much as I'm rooting for Artosis, I am very worried. Because after that last game against DragOn, like, I feel like he would be feeling quite tilted at this point. Especially because it really seemed like he had that game. Like, if I was Artosis, I would be like, oh my god, how did I lose that?
Yeah, after that big fight, it did look like he was in such a solid position and then just couldn't keep mining gas at the 3 o'clock, and everything just spiraled out of control from him. But, you know, maybe this can be a bit of a turnaround. Attitude is a seriously good map for Terran versus Protoss, and there's no cross-map Nexus first to worry about here from Dexter with these close horizontal spawns. Maybe this could be Artosis' series to continue fighting back strong in the group, go through to that final match, and show us some TVZ against Hawk. We'll have to see.
Honestly, that would be so hype. The victory against Dexter and then against Hawk, Artosis would have played every player in this Group D of IPSL. And I do really think he has a chance. Artosis has beaten S-rank Protosses before. He even mentions on his stream, he actually thinks S-rank Protosses are easier to beat than like A rankers and B rankers because they actually play a lot more predictably because their builds are tighter, right?
Yeah, he's talked a lot about that, how he prefers to play against players that are, in quotations, actually trying to be good at the game. He can actually kind of understand your opponent. Where what's that, like a joke quote, like if I don't know what I'm doing, you don't know what I'm doing, kind of thing. That's the kind of player he hates playing against.
Yeah, I remember back like when I first started watching him and his streams. I didn't play a whole lot of StarCraft or even anything competitively at that point in my life. And I just remember like him saying stuff like that. I just laugh and be like, "Ha, he's so stupid," right? And then when I actually started playing, I was like, "Oh my god, he's right. It's so hard to play against people like that. Like you just don't know what they're doing. How am I supposed to react?"
Yeah, that's the funny thing about Artosis is like, on the surface, he might seem a little bit silly with some of his takes, but he's right most of the time. He's not right all of the time like you might think, but yeah, he kind of does understand the game despite having his own Terran biases and a little bit of propaganda mixed in. All Terran players do, though. It is what it is. And I actually got a bunker expand to kick things off here from Artosis, and looks like Dexter skipping over that 14 Zealot as well. Going to be maybe going for something like a 23 Nexus build. Scouting last as well, so no real opportunity for him to do anything to punish this bunker expand attempt here from Artosis. So yeah, this is not a bad opening.
Yeah, the unluckiest player on the entire planet finally catching a break here with a good sort of riskier opener. But it looks like he is going to get away with it. The Protoss Nexus actually coming down after the Terran expansion. So this is so far a really, really good opener from Artosis, and I think if he's going for some kind of mid-game timing attack, it could actually be really, really, really strong.
Right, yeah. And there's lots of ways you can follow up bunker expand. You can even go for a drop play, like, you know, little vulture drop is actually a really good continuation from bunker expand. Or you could just play a normal standard, like kind of 5 factory style, or 6 factory if you want to get hyper aggressive. Yeah, the kind of world is Artosis' oyster from this point onwards, despite having slightly delayed factories initially. Doesn't look like there's any way for really Dexter to punish this. At best, he could force a repair bill out of this bunker if he went for really fast range, but he's gone for a fairly quick nexus here, so I don't think that he's going to have any room to punish this by the looks of it.
I think going for a bunker expand was such a smart decision from Artosis, especially if you have such a big reputation for doing the literal same thing every single game. Like, your opponents just come to expect that from you, and they play around it, like, whether they consciously want to or not.
Well, you kind of have to mix it up in a tournament, right? Otherwise, you're just going to get metagamed into oblivion.
Yeah, for sure. But Artosis is not going to let that happen to him. I think sometimes I feel like sometimes he doesn't do it correctly, where he mixes it up, but he mixes it up by doing stuff like BBS. Like, I've seen him try before, and it just like doesn't work at all. I'm not sure if I like most of his mix-ups. A lot of times he goes for 8 racks, which I don't think he's actually very good at.
Right.
Doesn't seem like he's very practiced in that build either.
Yeah, I think it's okay to throw out some cheeses here and there, like a 2 factory or a BBS, but I prefer it when players just mix up their optimizations and variations of macro play, right? And just like set up their mid game differently in different orders. And it does seem to be what Artosis is leaning back into here by going for this bunker expand. Doesn't look like he's going to be following this up with a vulture drop. He's just going to be powering up on factories here and making sure he's going to be safe against any kind of drop shenanigans from Dexter. Could be facing up against some Reaver harass with this style, so wants to make sure he battens down the hatches a little bit here over the next minute or two.
Yeah, ultimately I think playing defensively is going to benefit him in this game, especially with this opener that Dexter is doing. It's all going to come down to how well he defends this Reaver. This is sort of Dexter's way of punching back and getting back into the driver's seat of this game.
Yeah. I think he's making a turret towards these factories now. I think it'll just barely be finishing up as the shuttle is flying in. So let's see if Dexter wants to commit deep with this Reaver and actually just start to punish this. He does land the Reaver and target down the vultures, but tanks are here to save this. And good repair on the turret as well, just in case there was a follow-up Scarab. Honestly, one of the best case scenarios for Artosis now. Killing that Reaver is huge. At the pro level, that's like considered almost game-ending damage if both players are playing perfectly from then on out. Usually the Terran wins when they pick off the Reaver like that. Obviously, this is not a pro-level game, but yeah, still a massive advantage for Artosis starting this off.
Honestly, everything going right for Artosis there. I was like paying attention to how fast the turret was finishing, and I was like, you know, Protoss might go in there and think that the turret is like less finished than it actually is, and when it finally pops, like, you'll be taken sort of by surprise. And I think that's exactly what happened to Dexter here. Once the turret started shooting, he kind of panicked and dropped the Reaver and moved the shuttle out, and then he realized, oh no, like, I actually have to go back and save it, but he couldn't at that point. So that was absolutely best case scenario for Artosis. Getting a little bit lucky there. He's really catching his break in terms of luck. All the bad luck must have accumulated enough from previous games, and now he's finally getting the respectable amount of good luck that he earned.
Certainly seems like it. Oh, mines being laid on the periphery of his base. Just as the second shuttle flies in, Zealot gonna try and clear some space for the Reaver to land. Gets a double shot here on these vultures. Gets a little bit of a slowdown on the building SCV, on that armory maybe at the top. Or academy, excuse me. And honestly, this was quite a late expansion from Dexter. Artosis saw the timing of that. I'm not sure if that was a vulture or an SCV scout, but something did see that Nexus timing at the 9 o'clock earlier. So Artosis is aware of how good the game state is for him presently. He's gonna be powering off of 5 factories to start things off, and now he's got a choice. Do I want to get a bit aggressive and try and punish some potential greed? Given how late that Nexus was, it seems more wise to just try and take like a 9-minute or 10-minute third base CC timing and make it inside your main base and then float it out later. But we'll see what he wants to do.
I think this is always a difficult decision to make as Terran once you sort of get that advantage from the early game, because it's always very tempting to try to do something aggressive and push your advantage, but that is often the way that Protoss can actually come back. But at the same time, the ultra late game is so difficult to play as Terran. You sometimes just want to end the game as quickly as you can. So they're hard decisions. They're hard decisions.
Yeah.
But I think Artosis generally leans towards the when ahead, get more ahead camp. So I don't expect him to do a sort of big push. Well,
Right.
actually, he might.
He should go and try and secure his third base at this point in the game. Oh, that's a massive siege up. Is actually going to get slightly punished by the Reaver Scarabs, but killing 3 goons for that 1 tank, actually not a bad trade to take at this junction of the game. I wonder if he's going to be pushing to make the CC on the low ground since he didn't start it in his main base yet. One interesting thing to say about the positions now is like the natural 4th base for Artosis is the 12 o'clock, and that's expanding towards Dexter. So that only works if you want to play an aggressive style and kind of defend while attacking. It does kind of limit the range of play that Artosis could go for if he does want to go onto a 4-base configuration. He could still take the 3 o'clock base, but it feels a little bit counterintuitive unless you're trying to set up a split map scenario. So yeah, the spawns actually don't really favor Artosis in terms of expansion pathing of where he'll be taking his bases. So he might try and get the job done with just 3 bases.
It looks like Artosis is going to play this very. He's actually moving out onto the middle of the map here. These Dragoons trying to slow down this army, but Artosis feels confident enough to move on forward without even sieging the tanks. These Dragoons kind of not really a match for this army. They're going to try to make a fighting retreat, delay this army as much as possible. And now that the Reaver has come out, oh, a good snipe on that Reaver.
Brilliant.
Dexter is losing this game.
That was brilliant execution from Artosis. It's actually high-level Terran stuff to like only siege 3 of your tanks to snipe the Reaver while you're advancing. That's some very high-level stuff from IPSL here as he starts to encroach upon that rally point contained. Dexter has a reasonable size of infantry squad out on the map, but it's not going to be accomplishing a whole lot from besides maybe cutting off the reinforcements and maybe going for a little bit of a counterattack. He also ate a mine shot on that army, and Artosis full steam ahead into the natural expansion now, but this counterattack could accomplish something. He's laying down mines in some haste to stop the advance of this counterattack doing too much damage. He's picking up a lot of these zealots, actually. Very efficient hold with the rally point coming out of those factories and already starting to hammer on that Nexus in the natural. This is looking more and more like a Artosis victory as the seconds tick by.
Yeah, this is kind of a last-ditch attempt here from Dexter to turn this game. He knows he can't beat Artosis' army at this point, so he needs to get damage done on the backside and hopefully drag this game out as long as possible. But Artosis' defense, absolutely impeccable. The mines might explode on these goons here, and I don't think this Reaver can really do a whole lot by himself. I think Artosis has absolutely taken this game. He killed the natural of Dexter and is containing him on these bases here. Well done from our boy Artie McTosis, RT underscore Fartosis, all the nicknames.
All of the above. Yeah, really well done from him, man. That should give him a little bit of a confidence boost going into the rest of this series. It is a very Terran favorited map, but honestly wasn't the most ideal spawns as well, so he kind of needed to get the job done with either 2 or 3 bases of a timing attack. As soon as you try and get your 4th base as Terran, it gets a little bit complicated with those spawns. So I'm actually really happy that Artosis got hyper aggressive there. Now we're going to be having match point coming up next.
Oh, match point. That definitely seems like a Dexter pick here. I know any 2-player map is like a Terran's nightmare in this matchup because you just get your gas stolen, right?
I mean, you could like preemptively take the gas or like block with an SCV, but yeah, he's probably going to get that gas stolen. Looks like we're ready, guys. Jumping into game number 2, Artosis versus Dexter on match point.
All right, spawning on the bottom left of match point, the Bulgarian Protoss Menace. It is dxtr.
And up here in the top right, the man who needs no introductions, but will get one anyway. On Terran, Artosis, representing the United States of America.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
America. Although he lives in Canada.
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
So match point is actually quite an interesting map here, and oh my god, that is such an early probe. I think we're gonna see some kind of. I think dxtr is up to no good. What is he doing?
Well, it's taking the long way round, so this could be proxy gate. Yeah, proxy gate over here.
There it is. There's the proxy. It's gonna be 9-9.
Oh, jeez. Now let's see how good the scouting is from Artosis, because a lot of Terran players, when they don't see that probe come into their base early for the gas steal, they should be getting suspicious. So he might send out an SCV scout southwardly towards that mineral only to check for something like this. It is a somewhat common cheese from Protoss players on maps like this, so should be in the back of Artosis's mind. Maybe he can sniff this out and get a second barracks going early or something.
Yeah, we'll see. So far, okay, yeah, it is 9-9. I was gonna say that it is also quite common for Protosses to only proxy one gateway, but it does seem like dxtr is going for the double, all in attack.
Well, you should be suspicious of Artosis, because even if you're going for 12 Nexus, usually gas steal into 12 Nexus, so it's super suspicious that this probe didn't try and come in early and take this gas. So hopefully the alarm bells are ringing inside the head of Dan the Man, Artosis here.
He doesn't seem to be scouting at like the standard time though. Normally I think the 13 SCV will go to the other side of the map, so that does make me worried for Artosis. He might not see this coming at all, and he really needs to.
Well, let's see where this SCV scout goes. Let's see if this goes all the way to the south rather than cross map.
Oh, he might catch
he sees the zealot.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something. That's something. It's
and he goes south. He knows exactly what's going on. Okay,
yeah.
It's going to come down to the defense. That factory is pretty exposed, though. Like,
yeah, a little bit.
When you're going 9-9 gate, you want to deny the factory for as long as possible. That's pretty much the entire aim of the game. So you don't really want the factory to be too exposed. But the bunker actually being placed right on top of the factory here. SCVs are getting pulled. But so far, Protoss hasn't really been delaying this.
Yeah, looks like Zealots are going to kind of split off, one going into the mineral line where the gas is trying to be mined here, but Artosis actually doesn't want gas right now. He just needs purely minerals. Has got this bunker up successfully, so it's not terrible. I mean, this bunker does kind of cover all of his infrastructure, these two depots, the factory. It's actually not bad. Let's see how much... Yeah, see how much damage can be done with these Zealots now, because now now that there's 4, he's going to lose a lot of SCVs.
Yeah, the one issue with having the bunker placed down there is you can't really defend the mineral line, and that's really costing Artosis a lot here. He actually has down to less SCVs than the Protoss has probes, and you never want to see that in this kind of situation.
Can't afford a vulture. Return cargo. Okay, now we can start a vulture. Oof, he had 2 mineral chunks in the hands of his SCVs that weren't returned, so a little bit of a late start to this vulture to save the day. SCV putting a little bit of DPS onto that supportive pylon on those 2 gateways, but so far a very successful attack from dxtr, going in for round 2 now on these SCVs, killing another one. Finally, that vulture is out though, with some good patrol micro. Can kick this Protoss out of his main base, but behind this dxtr already mining gas.
Oh my god, he's microing so hard. He accidentally typed something in chat. I don't think that was on purpose. But yeah, I think the bunker placement is really screwing with him at this point, because he can't successfully defend this mineral line. An immense show of skill. Truly an immense show of skill. Good game. Well played.
Oh, jeez, I can't not laugh at that.
Oh, the question mark!
Please don't tilt Artosis for the 11,000th time.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think that game, I think the issue with that game is you just put the factory too far down. If he scouted a little bit earlier, if he like sniffed this out a little bit earlier, maybe he would have made a had more time to think about how to defend it. Because I do think that the bunker placement and the factory, like that was the real loss.
Yeah, if it catches you with your pants down like that, it's really hard to hold for Terran. Like, it's too late to make a second barracks. It's too late to send the SCVs to kill the gateway before the Zealots pop out. There's just no ideal reaction to it besides not losing too many SCVs and squeezing out your Vulture. And by that time, the Protoss is already transitioning into a core with gas as well for the follow-up. So you're still not out of the woods, even if you do hold off eventually against the Zealots with the Vulture. It is what it is. It was a well-executed cheese, and Artosis just didn't scout it. And it is what it. And we'll be going into our final game of the series as a result with that equalizer. Looks like the map's going to be Octagon.
Protoss pretty neat, huh? Says Artosis. Yeah, honestly, that game would tilt me as well. I'm not gonna lie. It was yeah. I don't know. Sometimes 2K just catches you off guard and you're just like, well, there's nothing I can do. I guess this game is over in 3 minutes.
This map is actually really suiting to Artosis's 9 factory style. Let's see what he can do. Looks like both players are ready. We're going to be jumping into it, guys. The IPSL round of 16, Group D, Artosis versus dxtr, game number 3, Octagon.
All right. The menace from Bulgaria, high off of his 2-gate proxy 9-9 victory. And after having successfully tilted his opponent, it is dxtr.
And in top left, lots of different names for this guy. The Muppet Man, the Beak, whatever you want to call him. It's Artosis representing America.
He is a man of many names, a lot of which are given to him by his lovely guys in the chat, a lot of which are in the audience today. I see you all. We all want him to succeed. I want him to succeed, especially after that last game. I hope he's not too tilted. Yeah.
Like I was saying, though, this is actually a really good map for TVP, and doing that like 3-base 9 factory style is super strong here, especially if the Protoss is not being like really crazily greedy. Let's see, he might be able to play a really good game and still close out the series and still be through to that final matchup against Hawk. I'm rooting for him, man.
This is kind of interesting depot placement. I wonder where he's going to put the barracks. Like, normally you want a Sim City where the depot's on the right
Well,
side
not always, not always.
map.
Sometimes you'll make like the second depot as the depot that walls with the barracks. So he might put another depot here to the right of this barracks. Yeah,
Well,
that's actually pretty common.
Of this depot then? Why is it there?
Good question, man. I mean, I'm not a Terran player. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's fair.
I guess it's not too far away from the CC, and it's not going to block much of his Sim City later. Like, those are the two main things you would consider when placing your first depot.
You know what? I bet he just wants all of his buildings to be closer together in case dxtr does a proxy 9-9 again. I think that's actually why.
Yeah, maybe so. And it is a massive, wide open, buildable terrain in the center, so it could theoretically be something like another proxy, but a lot less effective to go for a proxy on this map than on match point. And as you can see, there's that second depot creating some Sim City alongside that barracks. Hopefully we have a bit more of a normalized game here between these two guys, and we get into the mid game at least.
I mean, it is cross spawn, and that usually it's a very, very long game between Terran and Protoss. I'm kind of surprised dxtr didn't like go for the Giga Tilt move and go and get Nexus first. I feel like after that last game, going for Nexus first feels
Yeah,
natural, especially against Artosis.
that would tilt Artie for sure if it was cross map Nexus first. Yeah. At least he'd have a good excuse for when he loses, right? He could just complain
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Artosis is actually so confident it's not center gates that he scouted cross immediately after. Like, he didn't go for end scout. He just like went straight to the other base.
He was
is
to
gonna
find
work
out
out
if it's
for him,
Nexus
though.
first or not.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, he's not worried about the Zealot in the middle. He's worried about the Nexus being down here in the bottom right.
Seems like a pretty good start here for Artosis. Still going for that 4 Marine start. Normally I see people play 3 Marines, because that's usually enough to chase off the first goon. But I think Artosis just wants to be a little bit safer with his open.
Yeah, if they go like 14 Zealot and then they don't attack right away with the Zealot and they come in with Zealot Goon, like theoretically you can beat the Zealot Goon with an SCV, 3 Marines and a Vulture, but it's so hard and requires good micro versus non-existent micro, so having that 4th Marine stops any shenanigans like that from occurring and allows you to skip over the bunker.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And now the CC is allowed to be put up before the bunker quite safely. Artosis should be feeling a pretty comfortable position right now. One thing that I would be concerned about as Artie is if Dexter tries to go for some kind of carrier play. I think historically Artosis has been a little bit weak to mid to late game carrier transitions.
Yeah,
just
that's
because
fair.
I feel like he always scouts it like way too late. Like, he doesn't scan the Protoss base enough.
Yeah, I think that's one of the problems for Artosis is his overall mentality. Like, he's got kind of like a self-fulfilling defeatist prophecy about certain situations, like Nexus cross map or carrier transitions that he doesn't scout early and things like that. Yeah, I think if he could like tilt less and not think about those things that annoy him too much, he'd be a much better player. But it is what it is. You know, he's been around for a very long time. It's kind of hard to teach an old dog new tricks, so to speak. He's not going to be able to change his ways at this point. He's always going to be a bit sour about certain elements of the metagame.
One thing that's kind of interesting from Artosis' side is he went for the second factory fairly early on. I think this might even be a fact CC fact build, and this is normally very aggressive. I think we're going to see either a lot of action with Vultures in the mid game or normally what I see actually is a 3 tank push, but I don't see any tanks out currently. So
yeah, he could be
I'm
even
not
more
really
aggressive
sure.
and try throwing down a 3rd factory. You could do like a 3 factory pressure play, is really hyper aggressive for Terran. Doesn't seem like he wants to do that though. It seems like he just cares mainly about, you know, securing vision with mines on the map. Theoretically, you could try and punish a Protoss that's being aggressive by doing a Vulture run by in this situation, but it doesn't look like Dexter is going to be falling for that trap here. Getting into 3 gate observer is really safe. Go on.
Yeah, honestly, him not committing to something super aggressive, the right move right now because of the way Dexter is playing. Like, if he tried to go for a 3 tank push against 3 gate ops from Dexter, it could end very.
It certainly could, yeah. 3 gate obs is like a hard counter to pretty much any early aggression out of the Terran. That's just the reality. But it also does slow down the 3rd base timing. So if Artosis does play a normal macro style, okay, we got the speed upgrade online now, but I don't think there's any holes for him to exploit with a run by. But threatening the idea of it, those Stargates coming online like you were talking about. Is he going to be able to figure this out in time? This is a very like Lancer X style of play where you go for like 2 base carrier. It's like hyper aggressive and very risky, but can also catch the Terran off guard in a significant way.
Yeah, I think Artosis, first of all, he needs to recognize that something is wrong, right? Like, it's 7 minutes in and Protoss does not have another base. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's already weird. Okay, we have a couple Dragoons out in front, but it should ring alarm bells that there's only 2, right? Like, so why is Protoss on 2 base and only has 2 goons out on the map? What
And
is
hasn't
going on?
attacked me with a shuttle as well, on top of all of that. Hasn't sent a shuttle either, hasn't taken a third base, and is being passive with their Dragoons. That should be like, oh my god, he's doing something super spicy. Maybe 2-base Arbiter, maybe 2-base Carrier. Should be able to put those puzzle pieces together, but it's hard to do that in the moment, you know, especially when you're like going through like your build order and just trying to make sure you don't miss any depots. He scans it and sees it. That's so huge for Artosis. Spotting that just barely early enough that he might still have a fighting chance at overcoming it. Could decide to go into 6 factory here.
Yeah, honestly, I've even seen 7 factory in response to carriers.
Sure,
like, you just absolutely need to shut this down as quickly as possible, especially in this game where Dexter is cross spawn. That is unbelievably hard to play out into the late game. So we have to shut this down. We have to make sure that the carriers don't come online.
Yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword because like it's harder to attack into the carrier player because it's cross map, but it's also harder for the carrier player to do well with the carriers. You don't really want to fight out in the open with no like cliff edges to retreat to, if you know what I mean. So like it will be trickier for Dexter to attack with the carriers himself, but it's still going to be scary to face off against them once they get into like 6+ numbers. So yeah, this is a bit of a weird situation because it's harder for Artosis to punish and harder for Dexter to actually leverage those units once he's got them.
Yeah, you make a really good point, and I think that's especially true on this map, Octagon, because the middle of the map is so, like, it's just like a giant field. Like, there's absolutely no terrain features there to really, for the carriers to take advantage of, so you basically don't want to fight the Terran army until they're already, like, near your base.
Right. Well, let's see what Artosis can do with this. I mean, he's pretty much even on supply. He's got good cycle of units coming out of these factories. If he can successfully push, he can handle the first 2 carriers. When they get like up to 4, that's when they start to get really scary. But if you can get over to the Protoss player, contain him, start making turrets, as well as rally Goliaths over there, you should be okay at finishing this off. We'll see how the engagement goes. Only 5 tanks with this army, 1 already falling. Pretty good target firing from Dexter. Needs to shuffle back now, though, with each siege from Artosis. He needs to use these Dragoons like gold dust to make sure he can sandbag the advance and buy precious seconds for those carriers to start trickling out.
Yeah, I think Artosis was a little bit late to siege there, and I understand why, right? Like, you're really against the clock when you're pushing against carriers, but in this situation, you can't afford to lose a whole lot of units. But here we go. We're sieging once again. That was a bit of an interesting stop animation, but this army is getting completely wiped here. These carriers don't have nearly enough interceptors to do a whole lot of damage to this army, and we already have more than enough Goliaths to deal with these carriers here, and we're pushing forward. We're going to take up a really strong position just outside of the Protoss base, and I feel like Artosis has done it. These 4 Dragoons going down, becoming turning into blue goo. These probes are getting absolutely blasted. And yeah, I don't know. I think Artosis has officially done it.
This is crazy. Yeah, I mean, as long as he doesn't make any blunders here, it looks like he's got it. Going to start setting up turrets. He's got more than enough Goliaths to deal with the first 2 carriers. One of the carriers already on pretty low HP as well. If he just does non-stop rally of Goliaths across the map, if he can find that low HP carrier, or even just trade with the interceptors. Sometimes you have to kill the carriers, just keep hold positioning the Goliaths to pick off the interceptors. Can be a very good win condition for Artosis here as well. Already done some heavy lifting, killing off that mineral only expansion. Needs to be careful with these tanks so he doesn't sacrifice them.
Sorry, that was a huge mine hit there. Not a lot of Dragoons died, but they all took damage. But Artosis still needs to be careful. This game is still throwable as much as it seems like it is to his advantage. But as long as he plays this carefully, he can definitely 100% win.
I think he's got it, as long as he, like, again, doesn't make any critical mistakes. 2 of the carriers now low. Good hold position, shuffle micro on those Goliaths to reduce the interceptor count. Dexter in a world of trouble. Now runs in, pounces on those carriers for the kill. Targets the 2 low HP ones in quick succession. Artosis in a fantastic position. Dexter facing elimination from the IPSL presently. Probe starting to fall with a natural. GG is cool, and Artosis is through to the final match to face off against Hawk.
An absolute brilliant display of pure Terran mechanical skill, honor, and hard work from our boy Artosis. He's going to move on to the final game in the round of 16, fighting for his tournament life. Both Hawk and Artosis, both old players and both legends in their own right.
Yeah, really well done there from Artosis. A few missteps from Dexter in that game, but I'm not going to take anything away from Artosis. That was a nicely executed attack to shut down that carrier play. And super curious to see how the best of three series will go with Hawk, because honestly, it's one of the best Zerg opponents for him out of every other person he could have gotten in this tournament at the moment. Hawk is a very macro-centric Zerg, nothing too crazy, nothing too spicy that will catch Artosis off guard. And on top of that, Hawk has not been playing as much as he did in the past as well. This could be a good way for Artosis to break into the round of 8.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. I think this might be his big IPSL break here. This is exactly what he needs. I'm personally rooting for Artosis, the last Terran Hope, my personal favorite player of the tournament. Um, I'm very excited.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even a Terran player, and I'm kind of rooting for him here. Would be really sick to see him do well in the IPSL and go deep in a tournament. He's had such a rough time in previous tournaments, and kind of does tend to tilt a little bit or get some really strong opponents he can't deal with. And this time around, he seems to be having a pretty good run of it. He's taken out a pretty solid S rank Protoss player in Dexter there in a best of 3. Now he's up against Hawk in a TVZ. It's going to really start to test his ability to play a multitude of matchups and styles. And honestly, Artosis has been struggling a little bit with TVZ lately. So going to be a bit of an uphill battle, but it's good that it's Hawk that he's up against and not someone like Eon Zerg or Julian or any one of these other guys that can get a little bit spicy with their styles.
I mean, I feel like if I was Artosis, I would be on such a high right now. We really have to carry that momentum forward. And this is coming straight from some pretty devastating losses, I think, from Hawk. So I think the onus is a little bit on him to try and not get too not feel too down from those losses. I think the tilt is in the other direction, possibly.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And who knows, Hawk might, realize actually I could, even though I don't usually play cheesy, maybe I should play a little bit cheeky against Artosis and start flipping some coins just to frustrate him. Certainly, Artosis wouldn't expect that. And, Hawk's a pretty cerebral guy. I'm sure he's well aware of the weaknesses of Artosis's overall game style. Wouldn't put it past him to mix up his own play just to try and get under Artosis' skin, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what Hawk has in store for him. I mean, uh, if Hawk understands those types of games that Artosis is weak against, it's sort of a toss up, right? Like, do you play the style that you're comfortable with, or do you play the style that makes your opponent uncomfortable? I think
Right.
in this situation, it's kind of Artosis playing uncomfortably is like so much weaker than him playing comfortably. It's kind of too
Yeah.
much to ignore.
Yeah, and honestly, if you do just let him play a solid macro game, he's pretty scary. Artosis, like he has really good macro. It's only when you frustrate him, then he kind of falls apart a little bit. So in a weird way, I do kind of feel like Hawk should get a little bit creative with his choices and throw some aggressive tendencies his way. But yeah, maybe not. Maybe Hawk will just try and play some solid macro games. He might be feeling confident in himself that he can take it to the late game and consistently get out the defilers when he needs to and just drag out the game for as long as possible and get into full gas each time. We'll see.
Yeah, I do also think that Artosis, the way Artosis plays Terran versus Zerg, he plays it much more aggressively than he plays Terran versus Protoss. So I think Hawk could also try to punish him if he like overextends or something, but he has to play that pretty carefully because like
Mm.
even though Artosis does overextend sometimes, his aggression is usually it's very well thought out.
Yeah, well, it
and well played.
tends to be how Artosis loses games is he tries to like do aggressive move outs in the mid game, and then the Zerg like flanks him or wraps around his army, and he doesn't anticipate it, and then he gets frustrated. So yeah, we could be seeing stuff like that. Let's check out what the bans are going to be. Looks like Artosis banning out Andromeda to kick things off, getting rid of that super old school map. Looks like what other bands have we got here?
Hawk bans Sylphid, which is a very interesting ban choice from Zerg. I feel like Sylphid is actually quite Zerg favored, especially if you're a
it's
Muta player.
it's actually kind of weird. It's similar to PVZ in that like there's one main weakness, which is the Muta harass is really strong because of the minerals being pressed up against the cliff. But after the Muta phase has ended, it's then harder for Zerg because getting additional gas expansions up online is actually quite challenging. So the longer the game goes on, the better it gets for Terran. It's kind of like PVC on that map in a sense. Once you've survived that early phase, it becomes a bit more flipped.
I see what you mean, and I think Hawk isn't really like a super all in on Muta kind of player. I know some players
Yeah,
are really have like amazing Muta micro. I'm thinking about like Striker and Crossy. But I think Hawk is a little bit more of a passive, defensive, and maybe a little bit more cerebral, as you said, player.
right.
So maybe he doesn't really like Sylphid because he can't really take advantage of the Muta.
Yeah, it's not like he's got bad micro, but it's not his specialty, right? His specialty is his macro play and decision making. So you can't really exploit that on Sylvid with Mutalisk. So yeah, it makes sense for him to get rid of that map. It's also really good for Valkyrie play. You'll see a lot of Valkyrie builds on maps like Sylphid. Can be frustrating to play against unless you're really good at sniping those first two Valkyries with Scourge.
Yeah, I see what you mean there. But yeah, it looks like Hawk is also kind of signaling the type of games that he wants to play, which is just seems to be standard like late game. I'm a little bit less sure of how good Artosis's late game versus Zerg is, but I guess we are going to find out because both players are ready. Let's head into the final series of the round of 16 of IPSL. It is Artosis versus Hawk.
And spawning here, down in the bottom right, on that Zerg race, representing America, it's Hawk.
And spawning on the top left of Attitude, the legendary Terran player, fresh from his TVP victory against Dexter, representing both Canada and America, it is Artosis.
All right, it's a pretty good map for TVZ. It's not that spicy. Octagon is pretty bad for ZVT, for the Zerg. There's a few other maps in the map pool that aren't ideal as well. But honestly, Attitude, it's kind of 50-50, could go either way. Cross map as well, so does tend to lean towards being a more macro-centric game. Mech switches are actually pretty damn good on Attitude. I'm not sure if Artosis is feeling confident enough to pull out something like a mech switch, but they have become increasingly popular as of late.
It is really interesting to see the different kinds of late game meta shifts that kind of come and go. Because I remember mech switches were all the rage when StarCraft Remastered first came out, and then people started to figure out how to beat it, and now like people don't really play mech switch. So it's interesting to hear that it's kind of come back into fashion, especially with maps like Attitude, where the games you can turtle a little bit harder on.
Honestly, it's one of the strongest ways of playing Terran versus Zerg. It's just so damn hard to execute well, which is why you won't see it a whole bunch. But there was a KCM game not too long ago where Scan played against Sulky on this map and did do a mech transition and played such a damn good game. I've never seen Scan play that well in my life. It was crazy how well he played, and it made Sulky look a little bit silly. It was that good. And maybe, who knows, there's been some talk between Scan and Artosis about mech transitions. Maybe Artosis will eventually start adopting that style more and more in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Although I've personally not really seen him play mech against Zerg. I've seen him go like stuff like Goliath builds, but not like a mech transition in the super late game. I think he generally likes playing TVZ fairly aggressively. But at the same time, like playing a mech switch might catch Hawk off guard, especially if these two players have played each other a lot, which I definitely think it's possible. They're both sort of from the same era of StarCraft, right? They're both OGs.
Yeah, they're definitely some of the older gamers that we've got in the tournament. Let's see what build orders we've got. Looks like just a rack expand here from Artosis to kick things off. 2-hatch lair from Hawk, most likely going to be a Spire. 2-hatch lurker is such a low percentage chance these days, and with the SCV scout already in the main base, it's not going to work even if you did want to do that. Basically, 2-hatch lurker only works if the Terran doesn't scout it.
Yeah, and also like the fact that it's cross spawn adds another like layer of like this probably isn't gonna work to it. So I would be very surprised if Hawk does something weird like that. I think he's a pretty standard player, so I expect him to open game number 1 with something pretty standard.
Well, I want to see him take a greedy third base here, Hawk that is. It's going to be 2 racks from Artosis, gas at 26. It's a slightly delayed gas. You know, it's not optimizing for very quick stim and +1 timings, but he will have a fair amount of bio units to put on pressure to Hawk. Let's see how quick Hawk wants to take this third base. It's common to send out the drone to take the third base around about the time you're taking your Spire, but in the metagame, you don't have to do that anymore, especially if you want to play a 2.5 hatchery style. But we'll see if Hawk wants to get a tiny bit greedy and throw out a drone to take an early base or not.
I think being a little bit greedy would sort of suit Hawk's style if Hawk wants to play. If Hawk is like feeling really confident about his like defensive play style, which honestly it is really good, he could go for something a little bit greedy like a early third base, or he could go for something like a hidden third base. I also know Zergs like to do that as well. Common hidden third base locations include like the one that's like at 12 o'clock, which is the most frustrating.
That's for Hydra Guardian rushes. You'll take a base like that.
Yeah, I know. It's happened to me multiple times, and I hate it every single time.
Yeah, it's a fun build, man. I haven't done it in a while, but I miss that build. It looks like Hawk is sending out that drone down there to the bottom left to take a hatchery. It's going to pick up his muta timing ever so slightly. As you can see, he's going to drop down well below 600 minerals as that Spire finishes up, but optimizing for economy, not always the worst choice, as Artosis scans the main base, sees the Spire, sees the eggs morphing, can soon start to make some turrets to optimize his defenses against that.
You see him going for the third barracks as well. This is a common new thing, I think. Well, by new I mean like people have been doing it for years, but I don't remember seeing a whole lot of 3 racks play from way back when. But Terran players have really been liking getting a little bit more aggressive, building a bit more of a marine count to sort of deal with the mutas. Actually getting 4 medics. I'm not sure this is something I've really seen a whole lot of. But so that's pretty interesting. I think he's going to go for some kind of like early-ish move-outs. Early-ish move-out, not quite like the Academy Rush move-out at 5 minutes, but maybe more of like a 6 or 7 minute attack. I'm really not sure.
Well, you need like 1 medic per sunken, so you can break through 3 or 4 sunkens with 4 medics, but I think the main thing is just you don't have to worry about over stimming. If you've only got like a couple of medics and you stim a lot, eventually you run out of energy and suddenly you just get absolutely blown apart by the mutas. But with 4 medics, he can pretty much stim every time he sees the red dots on his mini map, so we'll always be ready to trade with these mutas whenever they try to put on some pressure. Because of this early third base, it's a little bit, early evolution chamber from Hawk. Does he have a Queen's Nest as well? Okay, that could be for
Oh.
Crazy Zerg. It's not really fast. Like, that's not proper Crazy Zerg timing of a Queen's Nest, but it's still fast enough he could go for that build.
Yeah, I think Crazy Zerg is a very, very, very strong build, and I think it's probably one that particularly tilts Artosis. I know Artosis likes to tilt at very specific builds, not necessarily because they're frustrating to play against, but because they're it's the difference in skill required to execute the build versus execute the counter is very high, right? Like it's a pretty easy build for Zerg to execute, but for Terran to counter it, the only counter is to play better.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong about that. I love Crazy Zerg as well, but you have to admit it's way easier than playing a standard Zerg style, relying on Defiler timings and everything being perfect defensively. Yeah, it's for sure. I like getting a bit spicy with my Ultralisk control. Like, I don't just attack move in with them. I like to manually control my Ultra positioning a lot, but it's a very easy to execute build relative to the alternatives. Let's see if Artosis can catch on to this play. I'm not sure if I've seen any follow-up scans into the main base to see that early Evo and Queens yet.
I'm actually very worried for Artosis because he's going for a tank push. I think he might have misread the situation a bit, because we do know he missed the Evo chamber and the Queen's Nest, right? So he might think that the Zerg has late tech. And if that's the case, like, he's like, okay, well, that means that a tank push is going to kill him before Defilers or Ultras come out, but that might not be the case.
This would be, if he did a fantasy style push with Valkyrie tank, that can be strong against Crazy Zerg, but the fact that he's not going to have Valkyries to help push across the map against the Mutalisks is what makes this a little bit spicy. Let's see how good his bio control is. If he can keep all of his bio in square formation and move around the map tentatively and take good trades against the Mutaling, he might be able to get into the face of Hawk before the Ultras start popping out. It is still doable.
Yeah, I do like that he's starting to move out now. I'm hoping he doesn't try to wait for Vessel. Usually you want to wait for Vessel if you think your opponent is going Lurker. But of course, you know, Hawk is going Ultra, so you actually need to move out right away. And Hawk has honestly been a little bit getting away with murder, like with the amount of greed he's been displaying, right? Like, he built 11 mutas. He only now is starting like sunken colonies, right? So, like, if Artosis doesn't punish this, I think Hawk is going to run away with this game.
It's very possible, and even if he does get into the natural, he can make more and more sunkens to buy time for those Ultralisks to pop out. Looks like there's a drone in the top right, poised to take an expansion soon. It's very clever when you're playing Crazy Zerg to kind of expand in opposite corners of the map, so even if they play whack-a-mole with your expansions, they can't kill them all. You just get more and more gases online. Pretty good Mutalisk control here from Hawk as well, taking Artosis to the Barbers and just taking a little bit off the top here as he starts to make his way across the map. Only 2 tanks with this army. 3 is when it has a lot of punching power to chew through that sunken line. Ultralisk Cavern just recently finished up, I believe, so he will have a few of those Ultras on the way. But until Chitinous Plating is online, there's still a chance for Artosis to punch through this.
Yeah, I'm a little bit scared that he might have spent a little bit too much time dilly-dallying. He, like, once the Ultralisks come online with Chitinous Plating, like this attack is going to start faltering. Oh, good Irradiate, but oh my god, an even better split there from Hawk. But not before the tanks already get into position, and we're going to start hammering away at these Sunkens. Ultralisks are already out, but they are unupgraded. Only 1 armor from the Zerg here. How the hell does that Sunken reach the tanks? Did you see that?
Did he shift click it or something? I don't know. Sometimes you can make your Sunken shoot further than they actually do by default with like shift right clicks and stuff. I'm not sure if that's what happened. I mean, this is pretty good progress from Artosis, but now Chitinous Plating will be done. And we can see the cows moving out onto the paddock and starting to chew through this Terran force with their Kaiser blades. But honestly, they're pretty stacked up. They're not trading optimally. Good target firing from Artosis is actually killing the majority of these Ultralisks. And now there's still a chance for Artosis to take this one home. There's more and more Ultras popping out. Going to be a total of 4 in the next round. Some additional Sunkens finishing up to hold the line as well. I'm not so sure if Artosis can break through this. We'll have to see.
I think Hawk might have initially pulled the trigger a little bit too early, but at this point, it might be too little too late. These Ultralisks are melting away. I don't think they really have the upgrades to be able to stand up against the Terran Bio army. He's actually getting more damage than I thought he would, but at this point, how do you stop this remaining Marine Ball from coming in and causing havoc? You only have 3 Sunkens left, and we do have 3 medics, so they should be able to bust through here. And look at the reinforcements from Artosis. He just has so many units, and I think he needs to go now because Zerg is on 4 base, and you cannot be dilly-dallying any longer. You have to go.
He could also wait for a D-Matrix to put a lead Marine into these sunken colonies, or just irradiate preemptively and force a trade from the Zerg. Either are effective. Looks like he will be conceding one of those science vessels to Scourge. No more energy on these vessels for a considerable amount of time. He's actually getting another tank down here to the front, and he's just going to secure, contain on Hawk here, setting up a bunker as another vessel joins as well. Looks like he's hesitant to pull the trigger on breaking into this natural.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit confused because I feel like he really had a timing there to get into the Zerg's face. But
does that bunker reach that side?
What?
That's crazy.
I guess we learn something new every day.
Oh man, that's wild to me. Actually, Artosis should be able to close out this game now. Like, there's not a lot of stuff here, and there were some Lings poised from behind. There's the forward D-Matrix on the Marine to kind of seal the deal here. Artosis should be able to pull the trigger and just go all the way, but the Lings out on the map are going to be cutting off some of the reinforcements. Artosis still hesitating on actually attacking into this natural. Maybe buying a little bit of time here for Hawk. But since it did take a long time for Hawk to get the additional gas, there's not been that many crazy numbers of Ultralisks pouring out. So with the good target firing that Artosis is doing, he should still be successful at breaking from it. Here comes the wraparound with the Lings in conjunction with those 2 Ultralisks. Actually will be cleaning up this contain.
Oh my
Did
God.
Artosis make a mistake at not attacking into this expansion sooner? Don't forget the Zerg is mining on 4 gases right now with that base in the top right. That's a 1,200 gas a minute that he can make. 6 Ultralisks able to be produced a minute, and all the surplus minerals going on Zerglings. That's a scary number.
Oh my God, I really feel like Artosis threw a game that he absolutely won. Now it's going to be way harder because the Zerg has all of his upgrades, right? Chitinous plating and whatever makes them run really, really fast. Hawk is sort of throwing away his ultras right now.
Yeah,
like,
this is a
not a
mistake.
good trade for him. But
No.
this game is very hard now from Artosis. Like he had the opportunity to come in here and completely wipe out the Zerg's natural, maybe even go into the Zerg main while the Ultras still didn't have their armor upgrades. But now the Zerg has completely taken control of this game, killing 3 vessels as well. Yeah, I'm very worried for Artosis. This is my God, I think we threw.
He has bled off too many Ultras than he should have, but getting the kills on those vessels is also quite huge. Let's see if Artosis can slowly turn this game around. The problem is you need to double expand as Terran if you can't kill the Zerg in these situations. And Hawk actually pounces on the CC and kills it without a cancel. Uh-oh. That could be a little bit tilting for Dan the Man here. And the longer this game goes on, the better and the better the upgrades are going to get for these Ultralisks as well. This is definitely going to be an uphill battle from here on out.
I guess we're just going to have to see just how good Artosis' late game truly is.
Is he still on 1-star port?
Yeah, he is still on 1-star port.
No.
That's why the 3 vessels dying is actually huge.
Look
Like,
at his
he
gas.
cannot replace his vessel count nearly as fast as he would normally expect a Terran could at this stage of the game. But he is making the right move, going out onto the map and try to get some damage done once again, because he absolutely needs to prevent the Zerg from taking advantage of his bases, even though he already kind of is. Like, it might even be too late at this point.
Yeah, Hawk was thinking about maybe being a bit aggressive with some of these ultras, but Artosis is encroaching upon his main rally point here in the bottom right. Let's see if he can get a good wraparound on this bio. He needs to be careful if he comes in a straight line. Artosis can just gun down these ultras one at a time and still get a very good trade. 4-2 upgrades on these cows presently. And just +2 weapons on this Bioforce. +3 should be about a minute or so away from Artosis. Small force, though, making its way down into that bottom left expansion. Let's see if he can find anything here.
Okay, this is a cute little attack here. A bit expensive because of the tank. But he uses that opportunity to try and launch a huge attack into the natural here. But Hawk just has so many ultras that I think he's just going to get sandwiched here from both sides. I feel like Artosis has completely lost control of this game.
Yeah, this is getting more and more over, unfortunately. This force, if it killed all of the drones in the top right, the game would be somewhat even. Not even good for Artosis, so he is actually just going to tap out, and a 1-0 advantage here for our Zerg Hawk, unfortunately. I really do feel like that game slipped through Artosis' fingers. If he was just a bit more decisive and aggressive attacking into that natural, might be having a totally different result.
Oh, I cannot believe that's how that game ended. It looked so good for so long. Like, I am of the absolute belief that if he just attacked, like, he went for the bunker? Like, I've never seen any Terran player do that against Crazy Zerg. Like, never in my entire life have I ever seen that as a response to whatever circumstance that Artosis found himself in. Like it was a funny idea, but dude, when you're going tank push against Zerg and the Zerg is going Crazy Zerg, you need to kill the Zerg. Like, you need to kill the Zerg.
Pretty much. Yeah, I'm also really shocked that he didn't make additional starports after he failed to kill the Zerg. He had like 2,000 banked up gas. Imagine if he was churning out more vessels on more starports behind that. It is what it is, though. Once he failed to break the Zerg, the writing is pretty much on the wall since Hawk was on 4 gases, no matter which way you slice it. It's a shame. Looks like we'll be jumping into our next game in here momentarily, though. Hope you guys are ready for it. It's going to be game number 2, Artosis versus Hawk on match point. Let's get it started.
All right. Down 0-1, looking to go for the reverse sweep. We have our Magenta Terran. It is RT.
And up here in the top right, currently enjoying that 1 game advantage despite not playing a whole lot recently. It's Hawk.
Honestly, if he hasn't been playing a whole lot recently, Crazy Zerg makes a whole lot of sense.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
But man, I feel like Artosis is definitely kicking himself after that last game.
Probably.
And he really needs to reset his mental here, because there's absolutely no way he can afford to make the same mistakes as he did. Man, he really, really had that game, and he absolutely has the, the skill, the talent, whatever, like, required to beat Hawk. I actually think after seeing that last game, he should be favored, right? Like, he just had his macro was on point, his his timing was on point, right? Like, everything should have went right, but he just didn't. The decision making just wasn't there. Like, he just needed to keep going.
Mm-hmm. He traded really good with the ultras to start with as well. Like, that initial ultra fight from Hawk kind of fell flat, and he gunned down the ultras really quickly. Like, everything was looking good.
There were several points in time where Hawk had no units. Like, he just had the 3 Sunkens or so to defend the natural, right? Like, there were so many opportunities.
Yeah. Well, let's see what you
Anyways,
can
we
do
can
here
harp on
the
that
match
game
point.
for forever.
Yeah, we really could. We really could. Got a nice fast scout here from Hawk. Pretty common on match point to do a very quick scout. Sometimes you'll even do like a 9 scout to check for anything like a 14cc or 8 racks or BBS. Looks like going to be a normal 2 hatch build from Hawk here. Not even optimizing for that 2.5 hatchery. And with this early drone scout doing a lot of harassment on this wall in from Artosis. But Artosis, he's mixing it up. He's getting a gas. He's definitely going to be doing a more tech-centric style here.
Yeah, although I wonder if he might have messed up there, because I'm seeing the gas or the SEVs transferred to the gas pretty late. Does seem like he's gonna get his factory at like 240.
Because of this drone harassment, it's really messed up his mirror optimization. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's a little bit unfortunate, but I think at this level it might not make a huge difference. But I mean, I don't know. Only time can tell. What?
Okay, that's a pretty quick Hydra then. And
I think that might just be a response to a potential 1-1-1 or 2.
But it's very early for a 1-1-1. Like, you don't need the Hydra Den that early. But we'll see. We'll see what he wants to do with this. Because you sometimes would want the Hydra Den defensively against the potential Wraith play. But there's also a counter-attack build where you make speed right away and you run across the map and try and punish the Terran before they can get set up with a bunker or something. And with the wall in here and lack of high ground as well on match point, there's definitely a room for these Hydras to go on the counter-offensive and put a lot of pressure onto Artie. If that is indeed the plan from Hawk, we'll have to see if he does want to get aggressive with that or not.
So this is interesting. Artosis is going straight for the command center. I think he might be going for like some kind of Goliath build. Maybe? No, maybe not. I don't know. It's definitely a little early to say. But Hawk is actually moving forward with a whole bunch of Hydras. This might catch Artosis completely off guard. He's going to need a siege tank or something to be able to defend this. But the Vulture does come out and spot it. So that does give him a little bit of time to react.
Yeah, well, having that machine shop on the factory does like give him a win condition of just getting out a tank with a siege mode. But for now, he has to hold with a bunker in the front. It looks like he might still just barely get this bunker up in time. If he's got enough SCVs to repair, he might be okay. Has he only got 1 Marine? Please tell me he has more than 1 Marine. Oh, this could be devastating. There's not a lot of units here right now, so he might actually get away with it. Theoretically, the Zerg could just run by the bunker with only 1 Marine inside, but it looks like Hawk's not going to do that.
Yeah, he only has 3 Hydras, so he might be feeling like he isn't able to do anything like that, especially if he assumes that there are 4 Marines in there, which I think is a fair assumption to make anyway. So Artosis might just kind of get away with it.
Yeah, everything seems okay for now. Al's got that tank out finally. But it looks like this was kind of a fake out from Hawk. Like, you make a whole lot more than 3 Hydras when you're trying to be aggressive to the Terran initially. So this does seem like a bit of a spicy fake Hydra bust to scare Artosis into trying to overcommit to siege tanks and defensive units while he then transitions into a Spire in a 3rd base.
Yeah, that was honestly quite smart play here from Hawk to do that, because I do think it did solicit like a fairly decent overreaction from Artosis. Like, if he could have gotten away with not even building the tank, but he had to spend 150, 100.
Yeah. Seems like he didn't call the bluff. He did kind of call the bluff, though, because I don't think he got siege mode. So he managed to skimp out there a little bit. So, yeah, maybe this game will be fairly even, considering, like, Artosis didn't totally overreact to this, and he's actually going into Valkyrie builds. A Valkyrie build now, and maybe even a fantasy style build with the tank push later on as well.
That's interesting. So normally 1-1-1 you go for like Vulture into Wraith, and then you transition back to whatever build you're going to do before. But this time around Artosis does go for the Valkyrie. And does Hawk? I kind of missed it. Did Hawk build a Spire? Oh, he did.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, he
mutas
did.
are
I
out,
said that. Yeah, I said that. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, Artosis will have the tools necessary to fight against this, but if he does lose the first Valkyrie or two to a Scourge Snipe, that can be devastating for a Terran. We'll see how well he can hold. Already got the first two Valkyries out before the Mutalisks show up. That's a good sign. Already putting a bit of damage onto those. I'm not sure how good the Valkyrie control is going to be from Artosis, but as long as he's just smart about how he positions them, just using them as like point defense can be more than enough.
Yeah, for sure. And he even floats the eBay above the SCVs in the natural. That's a very smart prevent the mute, just to make it harder for you to target fire with the mutas. But yeah, it seems like Artosis' defense here is working out for him, and I think he is going to go into some kind of mech push. It's like a mech plus Valkyrie push. I don't think I've ever really seen that before.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure about this build. It's kind of like a fantasy-style build without the bio. I'm really curious. This is like a special forces style of army that we see from Artosis right now. I'll be kind of blown away if he tries to transition this into a mech build, but he could.
Already 3 Valkyries are out. Additional turrets are being put up, but it really doesn't feel like this is working towards some kind of big push like you would normally expect from a Valkyrie build.
There's no racks coming down or anything. I'm a little bit confused about the overall game plan from Artosis at the moment.
Scourge are out for Hawk. There is definitely a way to micro the Scourge to try and like kill the Valkyries as the mutas are swooping in. That could prove to be pretty dangerous for Artosis. He needs to keep the Valkyries alive. The big thing about this kind of special forces build is any unit loss that you take is kind of devastating.
Yeah.
If your Valkyrie count gets down from like 2 to 1 or 3 to 2, that's a huge difference.
And okay, he is going to try and translate this into a mech style. I've seen Sark do builds like this. They're very hard to pull off. Sometimes you can just get run over by the Zerg. But Hawk isn't hyper aggressive. Maybe Artosis will get away with this. Seems like the timing is a little bit slow on these factories being plopped down, but I mean, Hawk is playing a bit passive himself. He's getting a 4th base. He's got some lurkers out, and Hawk definitely doesn't know that this is the build order of choice here from Artosis. Little cheeky mine on top of the Hydra here, kills a drone as well. Anything is worth something here for Artosis just because of how passive he's playing. He's going to take a long time before he's got an army he can move out with. That any damage is kind of necessary to slow down the Zerg's progression.
Yeah, I really wonder just how practiced Artosis is with this style of game, because I don't think I've personally ever really seen him do something like that. Honestly, I don't think I've ever really seen any Terran go for a build like this.
Sark does it occasionally, but he usually dies.
That's not a good sign. Not a vote of confidence. This is definitely not a pushing style, though, because we are getting our 3rd command center. So I think we are going to try to split the map here.
Right. I mean, to be fair, like, the times that Sark was doing it and dying was an era where Sark was playing a lot worse. He's been playing a lot better lately, and the players that were killing him were players like Sulky in more or less in their prime, so you can kind of be a little bit forgiving for that. But yeah, kind of interesting that Artosis is getting creative with this build order choice. I did not expect this from him, to say the least. This is one of the rarest Terran styles you can do in TVZ.
Oh no, these vultures actually getting body blocked by the lurkers who haven't even burrowed. That might sort of stop this harassment dead in its tracks. But we'll see. 4 vultures are now moving into this base here, but Hawk doing a good job of pulling back the drones. And I don't think Artosis... Okay, 1 drone kill. That's it. Yeah, not really worth it.
No, unfortunately. Is what it is. Maybe he can still translate this into a pretty solid mid to late game. It's going to be a very slow build to get off the ground. Yeah, I think he's doing this over like 3 factories at the moment. It's like bare minimal to hold off the Zerg while trying to get a third online. Hawk should definitely be expanding right now, and indeed he is sending a drone to that 12 o'clock to try and get a fourth gas online. We'll see some Vulture raiding parties coming out from Artosis. I think Hawk's got some units in position to defend against that here, some mutas, but Valkyries could help shut those mutas down to allow the Vultures to get in still.
Well, here comes the Scourge, though. This is kind of the counter to this style here, because the Scourge are forcing the Valkyries out, so now these mutas are free to chip away at the Vulture count.
Yeah, this is ballsy from Artosis, because I'm just going to reiterate, this is not easy to play this style of Terran. He's kind of stretching his skill set to the absolute limit. It's very admirable that he's trying to play like this, but it's definitely not in his forte. He's going to struggle against Hawk by trying to go for this overall strategy and unit composition. But the longer the game goes on, the better it will get for Artosis. Match Point is one of those maps where it's a real battle for attrition when you get into the late game, and it actually does favor Terran because you don't even have to attack. You just have to control zones on the map to lock out the Zerg from stopping you from expanding and stopping the Zerg taking one more base than you, and you can win that way. So maybe there's hope for Artosis as long as he just like doesn't die for a long time.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And the other thing he kind of has going for, and this is sort of why I'm like wondering just how practiced he is going for this kind of style, because if he knows how to play this style and Hawk is like out of practice playing against this, because you would never expect Artosis to pull something like this.
Very true.
Like, it could be that Artosis just kind of beats him via experience, right? Like, he just knows how to play these kinds of situations, and Hawk doesn't.
Yeah, and we just got a scan in the main to confirm there's no hive on the way. Hawk is only just now throwing down his Queen's Nest. Wonder if he'll actually make Queens for Broodlings against the tanks here, or if it'll first just go into Hive. Still hasn't dealt with all of these Valkyries, so can't really do a whole lot aggressively to Artosis for the time being. And Artosis will continue to try and expand towards the north. I really do feel like Hawk should not let him get this fourth base up for free. It's okay to let the Terran take the mineral only, but he really should start playing for this high ground plateau area and shut down Artosis from expanding up there too soon.
Well, that was almost a really good catch on the mutas, but unfortunately only the one volley from 6 Valkyries, not quite enough to get any kills. It seems like Zerg has mostly taken control of the map. Artosis is looking to expand to the top left corner. That would put him at 4 bases versus the Zerg 6. And I don't think that's really enough for Terran. I think he really needs to either deny a 5th base or deny and take a 5th base, ideally both.
You can play on 4 bases, but you can't let Zerg take 12 and 6. You know what I mean? Like, you let them maybe take one of those bases, and then the rest of the game becomes like a play for that final base. And if the Terran gets it, they win. If the Zerg gets it, they win. We'll see how this goes. So far, Hawk is trying to take both of those bases and being a little bit greedy. He really does need to stop Terran from taking the 4th base too soon, but honestly, Artosis has been a little bit slow with that timing anyway, so maybe it's best not to try and check him on that. I don't think Queens are going to be ready to have Broodling in time to shut that down either, so it might be wise to just let Artosis take it and then try and punish him being spread too thin with the Queens later on.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to note that Artosis does actually have an interesting time right now. So Queens have just popped, but they don't have nearly enough energy for Broodling.
Right.
In this period of time, Artosis can attack, and I don't know if Hawk can really do a whole lot to defend it. I mean, yes, he probably can overwhelm it. Oh my god.
I thought he might try it. I was going to say it. But I thought, oh, okay, maybe he's not going to do it. He actually does pull the trigger on killing that command center. And a big grimace of frustration from Artosis when he did kill that. You could also like get a queen over there so that you can like immediately infest it after the Scourge slam into it. Definitely a bit frustration.
Artosis needs to pull the trigger.
Yeah, after losing the CC, he kind of does have to. Queen energy's still pretty low. It's going to take another like minute 10 or so until the Broodling energy will be ready. Big wraparound from Hawk, trying to cut off the advance of this Terran from behind. 3 lurkers in the back as well. Bit of a late siege from Artosis as Hydras start to target fire down those individual tanks as well. D-Matrix coming down to try and hold the line. Quite a few of the tanks falling, but also most of the Hydras dying as well. So technically an okay trade from Artosis if he can keep pushing, but he has lost the majority of his main battle force. Not many tanks remaining.
Oh, he has to be careful here with every unsiege. Oh my god, this is a lot of Scourge. Oh, but a lot of them actually die to only like a few Valkyries here. So good job from Artosis in saving the majority of his Air Force. It might have been better not to lose that one.
And the tanks, no, the abandoned tanks just getting overrun by the Hydras. Uh-oh, I'm not sure why Artosis left those units there to die, but it is what it is. He's taking the 4th CC on location now in the top left, transferring over the SCVs. This is a worrying position because the Zerg has the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock and has total map control after shutting down that army. Just that one play of diving the Scourge into the CC and picking it off forced a reaction out of Artosis, and now basically playing into the Zerg's hands as the next round of tanks he makes are doomed to die to the round of Queens that will have their energy.
Okay, supply blocking the Zerg here, not a bad move. Hawk also needs to be a little bit careful with his units because he's bleeding quite a lot of them and not really getting a whole lot in exchange. But Artosis' tank count is miserably low right now, and this base is completely undefended.
Oh, it's just so painful, man. I kind of feel a little bit bad for Artosis. This is not an easy style that he's playing, and he's having a bad time with it. I don't know if he's practiced it a lot, but I'm guessing he kind of did it on a bit of a whim and feeling like maybe I can pull this out of the bag. It's just not going well for him, no matter which way you slice it. And Hawk is going to take the gases at 12 and 6 o'clock and have so much insane economy to work with, and a pack of Queens now moving into position. Looks like a total of about 8 or so. And yeah, that's 8 dead tanks, unless you kill the Queens before the Broodling hits, in which case the Broodling won't activate, and already 1 Queen dying before any can connect. So not the most terrible of starts for Artosis here. He's actually killing a couple more Queens before the Broodlings come down. But there is still too many Hydras for him to hold off, it looks like.
Yeah, this is starting to feel like the beginning of the end for Artosis here. Once he loses this position, I don't think there's any way for him to really defend his bases, especially the one on the top left. Although there is a decent amount of units coming down and trickling down, I should say, and not even sieging his tanks there. This is, yeah, if he loses top left, it is truly over. Like, it's playable from 4 base at this point, but yeah, he absolutely cannot afford to lose any bases.
Yeah, this is looking like a death by 1,000 cuts type situation for Artosis. I don't know how he's going to overcome these odds. Looks like he is just going to tap out. GG is called, and Artosis, unfortunately, is eliminated from the IPSL, but hats off to him for trying to pull off that style, guys. Quite honestly, one of the hardest ways you can play Terran versus Zerg.
Yeah, I think personally, it's a little bit of a disappointing result, especially game number 1. I know he had it in the bag. He got it. I'm so frustrated for him. I don't know. Oh man, like, dude,
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless.
Yeah, game 1, unfortunately, was definitely a victory that he let slip through his fingers. That next game on match point was a lot more of a closer game, but I was literally going to say about Hawk could just slam the Scourge into the CC, but you were talking at the time, and then I thought, oh, okay, Hawk's not going to do that. Never mind. Then he actually did do it.
I was thinking about that too. I was like, it would be really easy for Hawk to just move the Scourge and they all slam into the CC, but like my brain was like, that's a terrible decision. No high level player would ever do that. And then he did it and it worked.
Yeah, man. Because of how slow Artosis was taking that expansion, it actually made sense to go for a play like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a shame. Like Artosis flew too close to the sun and got burnt, but honestly, really did come close to having this series in the bag. Like, just didn't have the decisiveness to kill Hawk in game 1 against the Crazy Zerg, and kind of being a bit flimsy with his play in game number 2. It is what it is. Sometimes that's just the way it goes.
All right, looks like we're gonna go into a winner's interview, Hawk, with Hawk. So I mean, I cannot wait for that. Yeah, I guess we'll have to ask what Hawk thought of that last game in particular, because that was definitely a weird build that Artosis pulled.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how he feels about those games in particular in this group. I still kind of have a lot of respect for Artosis even doing that build to begin with. Like, I did not expect that at all.
Yeah, I mean, I've personally never even seen it before. Welcome, Hawk. First of all, congratulations on your win. Congrats for making it out of the IPSL round of 16. How are you feeling?
Thank you. I'm feeling all right.
Do you want to talk us through that last series against Artosis? Like, it looked like he was so close to killing you when you were doing that crazy Zerg build, especially after the first trade against the Ultras. He just didn't have the decisiveness to push into you. And then in game number 2, he did like probably one of the strategies I never would have thought he would try and execute with the Valkyrie play into mech. That was definitely surprising to see him try and execute that build, and super hilarious that you just sniped his CC with the Scourge and Mutas. How would you feel about how those games went?
Yeah, I thought they went pretty well. Crazy Zerg is really hard to beat unless you just have a lot of really strong mechanics. So I felt pretty good about going Crazy Zerg game 1, and he did like a tank push, which is decent, like a pretty good idea because it's stronger early. But the problem is it has like no follow up, and oftentimes like as long as you can trade decently, you can even like lose your natural and it's okay, just because they have no vessels afterwards.
Yeah.
So, at some point it's like all Marines versus like 4 armor Ultralisks. There's not much Terran can do about that. So even though like initially it went bad, like it's tank push, it should look pretty bad initially and then kind of slowly start to go your way. And then game 2 on match point, I felt pretty good ever since when I saw his tank. Because I only wanted to open like 3 to 4 Hydras. It was kind of annoying you got a bunker up at his natural, but when I saw the tank, I thought it shouldn't be that bad of a game, just because it's hard to go tank when Zerg still has like a decent Spire timing.
Have you played against that build much, Valkyrie into mech?
Yeah, I mean, not that specifically, but Terrans do like really weird shit nowadays. So,
Yeah, they
like
do, yeah.
in general, not hard committing to countering like bio or mech is a good idea, especially like if they're Volk and they're hiding info. Like it's better just to stay on layer often, so that way you keep your options open. But that's just what I did. I was like, I'll just get my evos up, keep my options open.
Yeah. Have you not been playing a whole bunch lately? I mean, I've not heard from you, but I've heard from other people that you've not been putting in much time lately to StarCraft. Is that true, and why is that?
Yeah, I've just been kind of wanting to go pick up some other stuff. Like I've been playing pickleball and golf, and
Okay.
I've been learning like basic plumbing. So like right now I'm like fixing the one of our toilets. I'm doing like a full rebuild of it, which is pretty fun.
Preparing for the AI when AI takes over and all the jobs that are left over is plumbing.
Plumbing is safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Plumbing's a safe bet.
Well, hey, it's won 3 times in a row. I've been working on it for the past 3 days, and it's still won. It's still leaking. But damn it, I can feel my toilet MMR going up as we speak. Each time I try, I see the points on the screen afterwards, and I just know one of these days I'll be experienced enough to actually complete it.
So what are you doing to prepare for that? You're like watching like guides on YouTube or something of like how to
Yeah.
plumb or like
Combination of like YouTube and like AI, like
Okay.
asking, is the
Chat
tank on
GPT
straight?
fix my toilet.
Truly cannot escape AI.
Yeah,
Oh, dear.
yeah. So
pretty
yeah,
funny.
I've been taking a little bit of a break, but I did play yesterday. It's not like I just hopped on and started playing. I did do a few games yesterday and kind of got it back. But I could definitely tell versus Dragon, my micro, like I think the games went fine, but my micro was really bad. So I kept getting like blasted on what should be like an even fight.
Right. Yeah, I
Mhm.
could see that. Yeah.
So you know, then I went to Artosis and I was like, let me try and do stuff that doesn't require much micro, you know?
Yeah.
That makes sense. So, are you going to train a little bit harder now that you're into the round of 8, or are you going to still be a little bit lazy with your practice and preparation?
I think that depends on who I'm matched up against. But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, generally, you know, if I'm in a tournament, I'll play for it, which is why I played yesterday. It's kind of not right to join a tournament and then just like, you know, pass that up the whole time. But no, I'll definitely try to give good games. And even if like I may not have as much practice as I might want, I'm still going to try and win and do strategies that compensate for that. So
Okay.
I'm never going to like try and give my opponent like an easy win. I'm always going
Yeah.
to try and make it difficult for him.
That's fair enough. And is there anyone in like particular you want to avoid or want to play against in particular in that round of 8?
Anyone but the European Protosses. I think they're in this tournament, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
anyone
there's
but
a fair
them.
few. Yeah, there's a fair few you got to worry about. Okay.
If I can
And
just dodge them, yeah.
what is it about StarCraft that, even if you are doing a bunch of other stuff now, what is it about StarCraft that you like so much and like gives you like motivation to keep coming back to compete?
Well, it's a fun game, and there's so much in the game to learn. Like, there's even though the game is very old at this point, you know, near 30 years old, it's never like people stop figuring things out in the game. And part of that is like all these new maps have to be optimized, and even like slight changes in maps have like way different ideas. But it's just a very, very interesting game to try and learn and to try and like understand and figure out like why players are doing this and just watching the pro scene. And you know, competing is also fun as well. You get to like test out kind of what you know, and sometimes you think you know something and then you try it and you get blasted, and that's like your test case. So you know, it's fun.
Okay. Right, you got some stuff?
Yeah, I have a question. If you go into the round of 8 and you get matched up with Dragon once again, do you think you could do enough preparation to feel confident beating him?
Yeah, I think the fights this game that we played, or this set we played today, were even or even like slightly favored to me. And I think I would have had a big advantage had I won the fight. It's just, you know, I lost it. So just on that alone, and like I haven't done much studying on like strategy. So if I can both improve like the strategy to get a favored fight and then also improve the micro to actually win it, yeah, there's tons of rooms to improve. But you know, same goes for Dragon. Like I'm sure he could also practice a lot as well and improve in the meantime. Uh, you know, on his side.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and I absolutely wish you good luck in the round of 8. I hope you don't get a European Protoss so that you have a decent chance at making it to the round of 4. And congrats again on your victory today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good luck in the rest of the tournament, Hawk. Nice to hear from you, buddy.
Yep. And thank you for hosting and thank you for casting. All right. Bye.
Take care, man.
Bye-bye. Well, that does it. The two winners are going to be Dragon and Hawk. They're going to be moving on to the round of 8 of the IPSL. We have one more group to go before we wrap up the round of 16. That is going to be Group C, happening tomorrow. It's going to be Zero, Worst, Julian, and Eon Zerg. I'm pretty sure all of them are Europe Ian?
Yes.
So we'll see
You're
if
correct.
Worst is going to become a European Protoss that will terrorize Hawk in the round of 8.
Yeah, it could potentially be. Yeah, he was one of the guys that filled in for someone, right? Like he wasn't originally going to be in the tournament. He's actually done pretty well for himself. Would be kind of interesting if he can somehow get out of that group, but it's not going to be easy. Zero's got very good fundamentals. Julian is a very tricky Zerg, and Eon Zerg's an absolute monster. So yeah, going to be a lot of ZVZs in that group. Maybe Worst can survive it and defend his homeworld Aya successfully this time.
Yeah, I wish him the absolute best of luck in that regard. He's really up against like 3 Zergs in his group. He better have good PVZ prepared.
That's for damn sure. At least he only has to prepare for one matchup, I suppose. It's not too tricky in that regard.
Honestly, yeah, that's like
group.
best case scenario for me. If I'm ever in like a tournament group stage and if
Yeah.
all my opponents are the same race, I'm like, thank God. I only have to practice one matchup.
Unless it's your worst matchup, I guess that's not as good, but it still makes your preparation a little bit more simple, right?
Yeah. I will say though, if it's a group of only Terrans, I'll just be like, oh my God, I have to play so many TVTs. TVTs kind of take a lot out of me.
Or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, TVT is a lot better than it used to be, right? It's a lot more dynamic and a little bit more action-packed and not so much just trench warfare, fighting over inches of the screen all day long and going into BCs. So yeah, I like TVT a lot more than I used to back in the day. I actually kind of slightly prefer TVT to PvP now, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I'm starting to like it more and more.
PvP does, like, even though it's exciting, it feels a little bit like figured out. Like it's
Yeah.
there's not
I
a
think
whole lot
it's
of excitement in terms of like interesting plays, I guess.
right. Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, there's a few different like rock paper scissory stuff you can do in the early game, but it's not very dynamic beyond that. Whereas I think like
Yeah.
TVT, there's just so much potential for aggression in the early and mid game. So yeah, I've kind of started to fall in love with TVT a little bit more as of late, just because of how insane it's gotten over the years. Well, that's going to be us for today, guys. But before we go, we do have a little bit of merch available to you if you do want to support what we do here at the IPSL, and go and check out some of the merch options there. And it's not low quality stuff as well. You know, it's like hand stitched on stuff, not stuff that's going to fade in your washing machine with your little lazy gamer routine of just throwing everything into the washing machine and hope for the best. You're not going to have any issues with that.
Yeah, IPSL does provide high quality merch and they provide high quality StarCraft as well. Even though some of the results are a little bit disappointing for me personally this time around, all of the games are absolutely exciting and a pleasure to watch. So if you guys want to keep supporting what we do, help keep the foreign scene alive, go ahead and check out the merch page or donate to us directly. Um, I think if you donate $10 a week, you get access to all of the replays.
Yeah.
So if you want to go back and study any of the games, I know Artosis pulled some weird builds. If you want to take a look at that, you can go ahead and study the replays after donating $10.
Yeah, it's definitely a good deal. Hope you guys have enjoyed your stay here. I've been Jean. With me, Rysat. This has been the IPSL Group D. Tomorrow we've got that Group C for you. Hope you are able to join us. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.